As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the fuck up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is Thursday, August 22nd. We're back. We got a packed show today. Lot to get to. Lions on Sports Illustrated, boom.
Big day.
I mean, yeah, it is a big day. I mean, Sports Illustrated already kind of booking the Lions to the Super Bowl. It's a great day. We got an update on Penei Sewell, his injury that we were, little worried about, but we got clarification yesterday. Less worried. We got some kind of bigger news about it today, so we'll get to that. But Boone, I see you got the glasses on. You're fired up.
The Booner Path was back today, full force. Sports Illustrated had them winning the Super Bowl. I know we're going to talk. We have a whole segment on it. I cannot wait to talk about that. Penei Sewell's back. Hey, the injury thing. Let's just get this injury thing out of the way before the season starts. That's just where I'm at with it. Like, let's just get this whole. Let the injuries happen now, and week one everyone's healthy. But I have a good show today. I'm pumped. You said Dion's joining. I think we have a great show planned for the people. I'm taking the glasses off. But I'm ready to roll.
I actually did not mention that, but I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. Dion will be joining the program as well, talking to him about the preseason game this weekend, his thoughts on some things that have been going on lately. But I told you we did have an update, clarification on Penei Sewell and Eric Woodyard. I want to make sure.
Eric Woodyard.
Okay.
Woodyard, yeah.
Make sure I do it because he crushes and he's awesome. He came out with a update on Penei Sewell. He puts here in this tweet, good news in Detroit. Lions All-Pro offensive tackle Penei Sewell suffered a rolled ankle. A source told ESPN no issues. He exited yesterday's practice early, received an MRI while being evaluated for a foot injury, but is fine.
Yes.
Which, boom. That is the best case scenario. Right.
Rolled
there.
ankle.
Rolled ankle. Not bad. Not bad.
We'll
be all right.
We're good. Shout out Eric too. I think hopefully we get him on the show. I think next week we're having Eric on the show, which will be big time. But I mean, it's just a rolled ankle. We're at the point now in the preseason. Like, I don't care about the starters at this point. Sit everyone. Even just let these guys go out there and run a couple laps in practice, and let these guys just get a couple reps in. So the offense, you stay spot on. You've already done 11 on 11 a bunch of times. You've had your joint practices. We're good. We know what our offense and our defense is. Just do not risk any more injury until week one. I know Dan too. And this is something I do like the way Dan's done this in the past. You guys remember Hard Knocks when Dan had that speech and he was like, "Fellas, we gotta hit. I gotta make sure we hit. We gotta hit. We have to have contact, fellas." And he had that whole spiel about that. I don't know how good of a Dan Campbell impression that was, but
it could definitely improve.
All right, I'm gonna work on it.
Yeah,
no, but he did the whole thing about I love you guys. All I think about is you guys. I love you guys. And he did that. And he went on and he just went on about hey, we have to have contact and we have to go full force and 100%. And that's, that's a part of what Dan Campbell's program. So it is a thing, but I do think there's the sense to where you get to a certain point in the preseason and your guys are ready to go. And I'd say, hey, this offense, I'm sure you can't afford anyone big to go down now.
No.
We've talked about it yesterday. There's a handful of guys, Amon-Ra, Jared Goff, Penei, Aiden Hutchinson, where it's if those guys go down, you're pretty much you're it's not that you're completely cooked, but you're pretty close to where it's we have to figure something out. We have to make a big trade. We have to make a move to be able to still compete. And that's what you don't want to put yourself in that hole. And you don't want to do that in a practice. I'm not saying it's not meaningful, but it's not as big of a deal as it is week one versus the Los Angeles Rams.
No. Yeah, it's good news. I know I see some people in the chat talking about ankle injuries. I know if you played sports, you've definitely had everyone has ankle injuries. Playing basketball, I've had so many rolled ankles. There's a difference. You know this, Booner. You know this. High ankle, low ankle.
Yeah,
big difference.
For sure.
Yeah, and I don't know the specifics, but by Eric's tweet, it is good news. It's awesome. Penei, he's a big man. So you wanted the injury to be something like this. You'd prefer this over something more significant. When I read foot injury, I was worried. You never know. Foot injuries, it could mean so many different things. And a rolled ankle, definitely one of the better. It's a best case scenario. Maybe not best case, but out of all the potential injuries, it is on the more bright side. I wanted to mention as well, I saw John, shout out to the doc, he put out the Lions will not have inside the den. They won't. And I know the draft in Detroit. Here, you can speak more on it, Boone. I just read it earlier.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify. I think they may, and I could be wrong, and don't like quote me on this. I think they may still have like maybe some sort of training camp inside the den or like a different version of inside the den. I know last year they did like different episodes. They did the draft, they did training camp, they did all these different ones. I think they might end up having like a training camp one. The one they're not having is the draft one. And I think that's the one that everyone, especially, and you know what? And I'll say it how it is. You guys know I get called the Lion Slappy, but I'll tell you guys how it is. The fact that your Detroit Lions hosted the NFL draft and you guys are known for inside the den, and there is no inside the den when the NFL draft is hosted in your city, and you are one of the best NFL teams currently right now. Like, that just feels like a massive hit to me. Like, what are we doing? And I'm sure the people there, like, the social people.
Are we good? Well, I think Booner just went out for a second there. I thought it was me, but I think we're good right now. Yeah. What a frame, by the way. Can we just frame this? This is awesome. All right, I think we're good. Basically, to continue Booner's thought, I'm not sure. Honestly, I might just do the show like this. I might just do the show like this with Booner like that. But it sucks. Inside the Den is one of my favorite things to look forward to. They're not doing it for whatever reason. I know people are, there's different feelings about it, but it is not happening. Just got that confirmation. I also want to add this, guys. The trade that went down, Jahan Dotson, in division trade, by the way, NFC East. Jahan Dotson is now a Philadelphia Eagle. And I read this today. Adam Schefter put it out, and they made it official. And I'll get the trade here on screen so you guys can kind of read the details. And I want to have kind of an open forum discussion about this because even though the title of the stream, or at least the thumbnail, says, "Did the Lions miss out?" I'll answer that question in a second. But here's the actual tweet. Let me pull it up for you guys. So Adam put this out. A rare in-division trade. Washington is sending former first-round pick Jahan Dotson and a fifth-round pick to the Eagles in exchange for a 2025 third-round pick in 2/7. So basically, Washington sends over Jahan in a fifth. Eagles send over a third and 2/7. He's got 2 years left on his contract. Okay, he's under contract for 2 more years. He was a former first-round pick. But how I look at it is this. I'm not mad at all. I don't think the Lions were ever in on Jahan Dotson. To me, this tells me the Eagles are going all in. There's been reports that they're trying to find a third wide receiver. Clearly, they feel like Jahan Dotson could be that. And Jahan Dotson's a pretty good player. I mean, let me get that very, very straight. But it doesn't make sense for the Lions to do it. Number one, they don't even have a third-round pick. Remember, we've had this conversation before. They traded it away when they traded up in the draft. But I think for the production your third wide receiver will be getting, even though it probably will be Khalif, but you're looking for a true X. Jahan Dotson isn't really that. And on top of that, to trade those assets for a guy that I don't think in this offense is going to put up a lot of yards. I don't know why the Eagles did it. They obviously are going all in for this year. It makes a ton of sense for them. Whatever. Lions make it very clear they're not going in for this year, trying to have an open window for a long time. Brad's made that very clear. It doesn't make any sense for them. So I know that at least on the thumbnail, maybe we were going to get in a conversation where one of us was going to say, well, maybe Jahan Dotson would have been a good trade. I'll just tell you right now, makes no sense. It makes no sense. I see Booner says, check your phone. I thought you could just join the stream, Boone. I don't know if I have to send you let me see. Yeah, we're going to get Booner back in here. Let me see. This guy's internet, man. He's got Klotz's internet now. Let me see. All right. Yeah, the Jahan Dotson stuff, not mad at all. I know some people in here probably agree with that. Jay-Z says, if the Lions brass that went to Washington in the offseason did not want him, I doubt he's Brad and Dan's material. Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to look at it. I don't think the Lions were ever not Jahan Dotson. I mean, if I'm the Lions, if I'm Brad, I think the correct way to approach this would be wait for cuts, wait for guys that are going to be available, and you don't have to give up anything to sign Robert Woods, who I think will be a very solid contributor and can fill that 300 yards you need. Like, you're not trading a third-round pick for Jahan Dotson. Number one, I don't think it's the right fit. But number two, to get what, 400 yards? Like, if anything, you should have full faith in JMO to kind of produce there. Like, I think Robert Woods can give you exactly what you're looking for. 400 yards, connection with Jared Goff. It makes a lot of sense that way. But we'll welcome in. Booner's back. Booner.
That's on me.
For a second, I thought it was me. And then I just saw you your pause. I'm like, okay, well, there you go.
What happened was my whole computer, my laptop, it just a black screen started staticking and then it just shut off. Like, there was no internet. It was just my laptop. And then I turn it back on. I'm logged out of everything. And it just pops up and says, there's been a problem with your laptop. It restarted randomly. Would you like to report the issue? I said, no, I don't report it.
I wanted to do the show
with
you in that freeze frame. Like, I just like doing the show. It's like, it was like Booner sitting there mid-reaction. I could just talk to whoever it was. But it's okay. You're back. We're good.
Yeah, and it's weird, too, because typically I'm logged in as an admin. And that was why I couldn't. Everything logged me out. That was why I said, "Hey, you need to send me a link. I'm logged out of everything. I can't get in. I didn't know what to do. I don't know what happened to my laptop. That was unbelievable. What a moment that was."
You didn't miss much. I'm just telling the people. I don't think the Jahan Dotson the trade would have made sense. And I think you can get pretty good value waiting for roster cuts and picking up a guy like Robert Woods, who I've been talking about for about a month now. So that's where I'm at with it, Boone.
Yeah, I'm similar thing. It's like I didn't think the Jahan Dotson. I did put it out there. My question when I put it out there as a tweet, I was just wondering, like, hey, do you think Brad kind of just looked at this at all, just a little bit, just to see, like, hey, if like, really it was more so as I would like to know if Brad is looking for a receiver. That was why, like, I tweeted it out asking that, and that was kind of my mindset with it. The only thing that interests me, two things with Jahan Dotson in this whole situation. It's one, what are the Washington Commanders doing? Going out there and trading to another NFC East team, their second best wide receiver. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And the only thing that I can wrap my head around is that potentially maybe the Commanders are going to look to get back in the Brandon Ayuk situation, because they were involved in it for a long time. Everyone knows that Jaden Daniels and Brandon Ayuk played together for a season at Arizona State. They're really good friends. And the fact that the Commanders, they put in an offer, and obviously Brandon Ayuk, if he had to pick any team to go to, it would have been Washington Commanders, and they would have paid him. It was just more so that the 49ers said no to the offer. So now they just went and got a bunch of assets. They probably saw what the Steelers were offering and said, all right, how can we go get those assets? And they said, hey, if we can flip Jahan Dotson into Brandon Ayuk, that's kind of our idea of it. So that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and to Steve's point, this is exactly where I was going. I was going to bring up the Hawk trade. Like, for Brad to trade TJ Hockenson in the division, knowing he'd be extended, knowing he'd be here a long time, you don't do that unless the return makes sense.
Yes. Like,
the return made a lot of sense for the Commanders. You kidding me? A third-round pick, and I have to give you a fifth, so I move up 2 rounds, and you give me 2 sevens, which, sevens are, most of the time, 7-round picks don't even work out. So I'm really looking at, they're basically moving up 2 rounds. So it made a lot of sense for them. They get out of Jahan Dotson, and to your point, maybe acquiring assets to go get a Brandon Ayuk. But even if they don't, you still moved up 2 rounds. Like, yeah. I think, and you know how valuable a 3rd-round pick is in the NFL. I mean, you're gonna get a pretty good player, especially you can get receivers in the 3rd round. So I don't think Jahan Dotson was like he's replaceable for, I think, like, and they're looking at it like that as well. Like, I can get a guy in here that can do kind of what you've done, and Jahan's a fine player, but he's going to the Eagles in division, and he's going to be the 3rd wide receiver, and he's probably going to have the same exact production. Like, it's like Even Hawkinson, like Hawk's a very good tight end. Brad was like, "Yeah, go ahead, go to the Vikings." Like
he's still he's probably a top 5 tight end. I just think it's more so like in my mind, I think the reason that they pulled this move was just to ensure like, hey, like we can at least get back into this Brandon Ayuk thing. Like obviously it's still going. And this is probably a little too deep, but like think with the Eagles are competing for a Super Bowl, right? Like we've said it a couple times. It's the Lions, 49ers, and Eagles. Think about the Eagles. Hey, they're talking to Washington. Washington said, "Hey, we'll trade Jahan if you give us this because we need this to go get Brandon Ayuk." And the Eagles side, they're like, "So wait, we get Jahan Dotson and we get to take Brandon Ayuk off of the 49ers, another contending team. Deal. Make sure you get that deal done and lock it in." So, like, maybe that's just me looking really far into it, but that's just where I think this whole thing goes. Like, I think Brandon Ayuk is going to end up in Washington. I could be very wrong.
Well, I
get your point though.
I don't think the Lions should trade for, and this I've been saying this, and I think this is where me and you maybe disagree. I think if the Lions are going to make a trade where you're giving up, premium capital, and I guess for Brad, you can argue premium is, up to like the 4th, 5th round. It's going to be, in my opinion, for a defensive end. I don't know if trading like a 3rd or a 4th for a guy that will be your 3rd wide receiver is worth it. I think if you're trading for a bookend, defensive end next to Hutch, that is 100% worth trading premium capital. I don't know about a 3rd wide receiver.
Oh, you're saying with Jahan Dotson?
Yeah, like or
yeah. Like, I agree.
Remember John, the doc brought it up like at the deadline, getting a receiver. I'm not in love with that idea.
I completely agree with you on that. I think we're lockstep when it comes to that. I don't know if I want to give up capital, Brad. I like maybe if it's, and we're going to talk about a scenario later in the show. Maybe if it's a later end pick, a 5th, 6th, 7th. All right, we can have that conversation, especially if it adds depth in the room. But giving up like the Jahan Dotson thing probably doesn't make as much sense as it would for like the Eagles. Like the Eagles, they're in a really good spot now with their weapons. Like the Eagles, you can argue that they're sitting there competing with the 49ers team now for the 2nd best in the NFC, just based off the weapons that they have and that defense as well that they've built up a little bit. Like the Eagles are quietly putting stuff together. So I'm excited. I'm not excited to see what they do, but you know that they're going to compete now, like, and be legit.
Yeah, like even Shift, he did trade a 3rd for Davis. Like, yeah, you needed a corner. Brad trade, like a great trade. Malik says, we've had bad luck trading for wide receivers the past few years, Trinity Benson, Denzel Mims, and potentially DPJ. I'd rather wait till cuts. I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. But yeah, I want to move on here. Wanted to bring that up. Sports Illustrated, though. I mean, come on. Look at this. Sports Illustrated have the Detroit Lions on the cover. The resurgent Lions. Right team, right town, right time. It's the Lions' year. They're on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I don't care. It's iconic. Like Freddie said, shout out to Freddie. He is spot
Shout out
on.
Freddie Felt. Great. Look at
mean,
oh my gosh.
You got Penei. I mean, Penei's he's too big to be in that car. He just is.
He fits perfectly in there. That's a car going to New Orleans. New Orleans, baby. That's where that car is rolling, and Penei's leading the track or the car.
Yeah, Penei's leading the car. But I love it, Boone. It's great. It's great publicity. The Lions are now in that they're in that, I guess, era of they're being recognized, and rightfully so, for being a legitimate team. I don't hate this. And I think it's like kind of new, for Lions fans to be seeing it, even probably for like Lions employees and players. Yeah. I mean, some of the players know, like Jared, probably not. But Amon-Ra, the season he got when he came to the Lions, what they looked like, Dan Campbell even. I love this, Boone. They're getting the publicity, and rightfully so.
This is Jeff. This is why we built up the Booner path. This is why the SOL stuff has gone away. Like I said it last year when we went to the NFC Championship game. Welcome to being on top in the NFL. Like Detroit Lions fans have waited forever, 30, 40 years to say, hey, we're at the top of the NFL right now. We are at the top of the mountain fighting. It is king of the hill, and you're sitting at the top with the Chiefs, the 49ers, and you're just sitting there fighting for the flag on the top of the hill there. And it's like, hey, national media, this is the thing that I think Lions fans need to start realizing. We need to realize there's going to be a ton of bandwagon fans. Okay, we welcome everyone aboard. Am I wrong, Jeff? Like, we welcome every single person on board of that. But one thing people we do need to realize, we're not just a contending, like the Detroit Lions aren't just a contending football team. I feel like I'm in the future with these. The Lions aren't just a contending football team. The Detroit Lions are America's football team now. Like, it is no longer, hey, you're just a Super Bowl contender. No, every single person who's not a Lions fan and doesn't really have an NFL team around the whole country, around the world, who's like, hey, who do I want to root for this year? Every single one of those fans is looking at the Detroit Lions. Like, every single person that does not have a team that's even going to make the playoffs, they're looking at the Detroit Lions. They're looking at our fan base. They're looking at the coaches. They're looking at the players. It is a magnifying glass that is on this organization right now for the next 365 days or until February, whenever the Super Bowl is. So, like, you are no longer just a contending football team. Like, people might hate to hear this, and this is one of those things. I'm going to always be honest with you guys. There's a lot of pressure on this football team this year. Like, there's a ton of – the pressure is on. Am I wrong, Jet? Like, this is where real pressure is. Like, this is what it is. Like, last year you could say, oh, it was pressure. Like, no, like, you're content. Like, your expectation last year was the NFC North, and you went in there and went to the NFC Championship game. Your expectation this year is a Super Bowl. Like, think about that. It is the top of the top. So, like, you're a contender. You're America's team, and your expectation is to win a Super Bowl. That is a lot of pressure. So there, like, when I was thinking about this today, as soon as I saw this SI article come out, first thing that pops in my head is this is going to be a lot of pressure. Like, this is going to be a lot going on here with the Detroit Lions. But the biggest thing is, like, there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. Like, hold on, like, buckle up. This is going to be a season. Like, you're going to have to handle it as a fan. There's going to be losses, but guess what? This team's going to still go win a Super Bowl. So, hey, we welcome the bandwagoners. I welcome SI on. Shout out to Doc. We welcome all of the national media. We want all of the national media on the Booner path. We want the national media with the Detroit Lions.
I love that.
I don't know what the topic is right now, but I know that I agree with what
Sports Illustrated featuring the Lions, and Super Bowl expectations, the pressure, and how you mentioned America's team. And I saw this comment, Tyler, Patriots have fallen, America's team at this point, most likely the Chiefs. You know what I love, though? We go to Nashville. We're on a very nice rooftop bar. All right. We're hanging out. We're vibing. We're talking to some NFL fans. One of the guys there chopping it up with us, talking some ball. And again, he goes, yeah, my favorite team, Kansas City Chiefs. Okay. He's from Missouri. He looked at us and he said, Lions are my second favorite team.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. And that is not the first time I've heard that. I hear that so much. If you talk to anybody that's a fan of other teams, they always, if you're talking to them, I don't know if it's just because, you're talking to a Lions fan and you're just like trying to like throw them a bone and trying to be nice, but it is always, yeah, Lions are always my second favorite team. Like, hey, if we weren't in it, I'd want you guys to win it. Like, to me, there will be a time where we're hated. The Lions are going to be hated.
I disagree. You could go win a Super Bowl. Like, look at the Cowboys. They were always considered, and I guess people hate the Cowboys now. Listen, the Lions are like, there is no changing what the Lions are. Like, they could go win a Super Bowl this year, and people are like, oh my gosh, the Lions, this is incredible. And they can go win another one, and people will be like, oh my, it's like the Warriors. Like, no one really ever hated Steph Curry and the Warriors unless you were just probably a loser.
Winning, though.
I hated those teams.
That's because you're a loser. You don't like winning. We like winning.
That's when I was a LeBron fan.
That was America's football team.
LeBron fan.
So, like, Detroit Lions, they can win 2 Super Bowls in a row, and people are going to be like, this is the greatest thing of all time. Like, who would have ever thought the Detroit Lions would have won 2 Super Bowls? Like, I disagree with that.
In Detroit,
every single person's a Lions fan.
I mean, in Detroit, I think that absolutely would be the case. But outside the NFL, I with other teams, even like when the Chiefs first started getting good and they started beating the Patriots, like, I love the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, second time they won a Super Bowl, even when they kept going to the AFC Championship game, I was like, all right, ready for something else. The Chiefs right now, respect the Chiefs. I can't stand the Chiefs because, at least in my opinion, and I think this is true with a lot of people, you hate watching the same thing over and over again. Like, that's why people couldn't stand the Patriots dynasty. But then when Tom Brady goes with the Buccaneers, they love Tom Brady winning with the Buccaneers because it's something new. So I just think with any NFL team, even outside the Lions, like if the Browns, when Baker Mayfield.
Cut. What are we doing? The Lions haven't won a The Lions haven't even won a Super Bowl yet, and we're talking about teams hating the
No,
people hating the Lions.
He's talking about like the first one. I think will be like people are going to be like, man, like I'm so happy Detroit got one, and then if they're getting another one, it's going to be like, all right, like
they got their ring.
Yeah,
now those people are ready.
We gonna get one first.
Absolutely,
win one.
Dude, well, all three of us are going to be jumping up and down when they win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many they win. We're not going to get sick of it. But after the NFL fans see the Lions win one, they're going to be ready to be like, oh, the Lions of all teams just won a Super Bowl and we haven't. It's like the memes where it'll be like a random thing that happens around the world. And it'll be like, random event has happened before Joel Embiid makes the Eastern Conference Finals. Like it's one of those things where it's just like they're ready for their team to win and they're tired of seeing other teams win constantly. I just think teams and fans are going to get jealous of the Lions because they don't have that.
I don't know how we got here from Sports Illustrated saying the Lions are going to win a Super Bowl.
Well, it's
Let's go, boys.
Conversation. It's like we're talking about them being in the Super Bowl, and we're talking about what's going to happen. Like I
shout
brought
out
up
Steve,
the story.
Detroit Dynasty.
That's what I'm about.
Well, in your words, let's wait. Let's wait till it happens. All right, before we talk about
no, winning Super Bowls.
But I think right now everyone is, of course, going to love Lions. They love Dan Campbell. Now, can they handle the pressure? I think they can because I think at the most important positions, you have guys that don't crack under pressure. Like, Dan Campbell, head coach. I don't think decision making, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to have to see that. Like, I'm going to have to see more of it. I want to see Dan in a Super Bowl, and I just want to see how he carries himself. And then I can really get that answer. But Jared Goff, dude's played in a Super Bowl, played in 2 NFC Championship games. There's not much to doubt there. All right. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I don't doubt the man. All right. He shows up in big games. Penei Sewell, don't doubt it. Hutch, don't doubt it. Like there's at key positions, you don't really doubt any of those key guys. So I don't think they'll crack under pressure. I don't think they're built like that. And I don't think Dan Campbell will let these guys slip up. So in terms of his how he motivates guys and keeps guys dialed in, he does that at the highest level. But pressure, when you talk about big games, I'm not going to lie, there is a part of me where I do want to see Dan in the Super Bowl just to see his approach. Like, is it, we're going for it on 4th down every time? Probably. Yeah. But I just want to see, I just want to see the man on the biggest stage. I think it'd be, especially for Dan, to get all the people like Joy Taylor throwing shots at him when he first got his press conference. I think it'd be awesome for Dan to finally get a Super Bowl.
And we got to see it a little bit last year, like with the Rams game and the Bucs game. Like you got to see, and then when you take the lead in the NFC Championship game, you're like, all right, this is what Dan's about a little bit. Like, hey, we know what Dan's about. Obviously, the situation of blowing the lead, that's one thing, but the pressure this year going like last year's pressure, I think like NFC North Championship compared to a Super Bowl, like that pressure goes from 4 out of 10 to 8 out of 10 to 9 out of 10. Because now you're at the point to where anything you fall short of a Super Bowl, and it's the same thing right now for a team like the 49ers. Like imagine the pressure that the Kyle Shanahan every year after year after year, those guys have going in. That doesn't mean they can't win it. Like they're in the game every year now, and they're in the NFC Championship game every single year now. But now Dan Campbell, it's like, all right, let's do it back to back. Like now that this is the first year that there's actual real pressure for a Super Bowl, let's flip the switch and let's go out there and let's go out there and win this thing. And I think they're going to do it. They're going to do it. And like someone like Sports Illustrated being like, hey, that's our pick. You're going to see a lot more people. Like, who I can't wait to see? I'm interested to see who Peter Schrager picks, because Peter Schrager the last 3 or 4 years has gotten the Super Bowl matchup 4 straight years.
Wait, he's been on a heater? He's been on a heater?
4 straight seasons, I believe. He has picked the exact Super Bowl matchup. So that's where it's like you're going to start seeing national media, and that's where I think like Lions fans are pretty good with it, but there is that thing where it's like bandwagon, like no, we don't want you. Like no, we're the brand new Lions. They're going to go win a Super Bowl, and we accept anyone who wants to join along the ride. And yeah, obviously the loyal fans deserve it. Like the loyal fans are ones that deserve to kind of really celebrate it. Hey, but we accept anyone on this ride with us. We're the Detroit Lions, baby, America's football team.
Yeah. I mean, we'd all be lying to ourselves as Lions fans, knowing like the Quintricia days, the Schwartz days, like pretty much every era since the Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes era. Lions are your favorite team, but you're rooting for someone else to get you through that NFL season. And now roles have completely switched. Now you're a New England Patriots fan. And your team that you're rooting for this NFL season is the Detroit Lions. There's tons of them. And I think that's just very ironic considering where the NFL was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I've said this before, I can't wait to get to a point where it's no longer like, you get my sympathy cheer. Like I want to be hated. There is a part of me where I want the Lions to be hated. I like that because there's a reason. I don't want oh, look at them. They're winning the division. How cute.
I enjoy it.
I want people to be like, man, F the Lions, screw them.
No, I enjoy people being like, hey, we love you guys. I enjoy it. I'm all right. Thank you.
This roster, like Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, even like guy like Jared Goff, like I think these guys are perfect just to play villains in the NFL. Like Penei Sewell is the ultimate just like bad guy that if you were the NFL, would it be a story right now? And you were to pick one guy that'd play the best villain, it'd be Penei Sewell.
Yeah,
and then
I don't think anyone wants smoke with that villain.
Exactly. Like the Lions, I think, are the most physical team in the NFL. You could argue the Baltimore Ravens, but after I watched them in the playoffs, decided to throw the ball 30 plus times and run the ball 12. Yeah, I'm sorry. San Francisco 49ers, they're up there, but Lions, physicality wise, I'm going to give it to them.
Well, I want to welcome in our guest here, who's someone that is going to be covering, this expected Super Bowl run. All right, he is definitely going to be covering it. You guys know what it is, Dose of Dion. Let's get him welcome into the program. You guys can check him out. Link will be in the description. Man always continues to support us, so please welcome in Mr. Dion. Dion, how you doing, my man?
Hey, yo, wait, real quick. Can y'all hear me? Because I don't.
Yes, sir.
You're good.
You're good.
I'm good. Man, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm glad this is working. This is weird. This is super weird. Like the image is super small. I feel like I'm like squinting to see myself, but it's working, man. I'm here. We can hear it, so we're good. It's good to see y'all again, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah, no, you're good, man. I honestly won't even notice. Don't even worry about it. We'll talk some ball here. I got to ask it, Dion. I got to ask it because I love picking your brain with this stuff. Last week, I know we asked John about it. We asked Mike about it too, Micro Mike. Just your thoughts on the last preseason game and some of the takeaways from some guys that, need the game. And this is what preseason's for. I know there's a chunk of Lions fans that probably are like, I'm not watching preseason. But I think there's a lot of people like myself and like you and others and Lucas and Boone that are like, we got to watch this because these are guys that could play in some depth pieces. What'd you think of a guy who needs these reps more than anybody, Hendon Hooker, and how he's going to start this week? I think that's going to be probably the biggest storyline. But some of your takeaways from how he looked last week, had a concussion, barely practiced, and he looked pretty comfortable out there, Dion.
Yeah, well, hey, first off, I absolutely love the preseason, man, because when things were, especially when things were bad, it was like, we can't lose. So it's like, if you win, everything's happy. If you lose, you're like, it didn't count anyways. It doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Preseason is beautiful, man. You should learn to enjoy. Look at I use this. Look at the Patriots, for example. Okay, they don't want to watch that team in the regular season, but in the preseason, man, they are loving it. They're like, yo, this is basically our starters playing their backups. They might win some games, so enjoy the preseason. But for me, Hendon Hooker. The first game I walked away, I wasn't like as blown away as I feel like the perception was. I think it was just a lot of hype to finally see him. It was like we finally got to see Hendon Hooker. And of course, he gave us the highlight play where he ran over a couple of guys. So it was like, oh, this is the dude. But then after last week, like the biggest thing for me is I stood back and thought to myself, like, this is the number 2 quarterback, and I'm confident in that. Like, I thought for a long time it had to be that they were going to keep Sudfeld just to make sure that they had kind of like, okay, we have to have Sudfeld here because we may still go to him before we go to Hendon Hooker. It kind of felt like it's kind of how I feel like with backup tackle, for example, with like Dan Skipper and Manu, that kind of thing. But after that game, I walked away like, no, I'm confident Hendon Hooker could step in and play. Maybe you got to pull some things back, but maybe you can expand some things too because of his legs. And it's like we can simplify some stuff here. But he handled himself. He was so aware. That was the biggest thing to me. It felt a lot of awareness there. We know he takes care of the ball. That's just like his trait is like, I'm going to take care of the football, specifically passing it, not the zone read stuff. That was a mess. But passing the football, he's not going to throw that thing like into a spot where the defender can get it. So tying that along with the fact that, the quickness, the awareness, the blitz recognition, getting the ball to his hands fast, and also just the consistency. Like whenever you watch Hendon Hooker, it feels like no matter the pocket, the ball comes out the exact same. Now, I can see in like areas where that would become a problem, or maybe he takes a sack you don't want to. It's not perfect, but his throwing motion is so consistent. It feels like you're going to get such consistent results where it's like, once we dial this in and how he wants it for each spot of the field, because I thought he missed easy stuff in college, you're going to have such a consistent Hendon Hooker. So I stepped away saying this is number 2 quarterback, and we no longer need to keep Sudfeld. And I think for me, that's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah, I'm with you there.
So as long as he's better
Absolutely.
than Sudfeld, we're in a good spot. Hey, Dion, hey, it's good seeing you today. Want to ask you this. I know you've been at a lot of training camp like practices, and as well as like with these preseason games. I think one of the biggest storylines, at least right now, in my opinion, is his defensive line, this edge group. Like I feel like the people are talking about the last 5 or 6 spots on this football team, and it seems like it's coming down to the edge group and like James Houston, Mitchell Gude, Isaac Ukwu, and like Matthew Betts. Like those guys, it's like Dan's trying to figure out who can play Sam, who can be the edge. Like how can we work this around? What is your kind of perception on that? And like who do you think out of those 4 guys, let's say like 2 of them make the team, who are your picks on that? Because it's been an interesting thing, I think, the last week. Like we haven't really seen Houston, and then like Agude's been just absolutely dominating, and same with Ukwu. So it's like the tables are starting to turn here on this defensive line group. Where do you stand on that? What do you think happens Saturday and then Tuesday for cuts?
Yeah, for me, that's the most fun position. I think that might be like the most anticipated position group just to see what it looks like this next week. And that position more than any other feels like, oh, they need this week. Like everybody needs this. Maybe some guys got it. Like it felt like Matthew Betts kind of put himself in the conversation last week because week 1 we didn't really have anything. And then last week it was like, oh, he could drop into coverage. He could play different. He's playing a little off ball at the end of the game. So it felt like he threw himself into the conversation. The way that I look at it is I think Isaac Ukwu stylistically is a guy that I think the Lions may very well prefer. I just think the way that he wins makes a ton of sense opposite of Hutchinson, the skill set wise, and he's played a lot of outside linebacker to this point. The flip side, my concern there is the versatility. I don't think is like Betts, right? I don't see Ukwu dropping into coverage very often. I don't see that movement versatility there. And Matthew Betts is such a different type of player. Like he definitely wins with quickness and he likes to get outside, even though he doesn't always win there, but he wins with quickness. He wins a more finesse style game. And I think that's just different. That's what it always felt like with James Houston. James Houston was always like a wild card. You have this deck of pass rushers. You got a lot of pocket collapsers. And then you had James Houston. It was just something completely different. And there felt like there was a value in that. So for me personally, if I was betting right now, I'd say Matthew Betts makes the team. I wasn't blown away last week, but I felt like he put himself in the conversation and his versatility was the thing that stood out. And I was thinking, I'm like, if he just has another solid week, I could see him separating himself to just bring something different. Now, you said keep 2. Personally, I would honestly be pretty shocked that the Lions kept 2. I think there's only one guy of those 4 making it that you mentioned. Could be wrong on that. I think only one's going to make it. And I think James Houston is still in the conversation, even though it feels like, understandably so, we kind of like some may just like kind of want to forget about Houston, like, oh, okay, he's not making the team because we didn't see him and it's been really rough to this point, but he still rushes the passer well. And I think you could still look at James Houston and say, hey, that's the best pass rusher of the 4. Like you could make that case. Even week 1 wasn't that, like he was getting after everything else was rough, but getting after the quarterback alone wasn't that bad. He was solid. I think he had 2 pressures in that game. So I walk away like, if Houston gets a good amount of snaps, which I don't even know if that's going to be the case. But if he gets the opportunity, say he has 3 pressures, I don't think the Lions are trying to keep James Houston from making this team. I think they would easily say, Houston, you're still going to stick around with us. We don't want to lose you because Houston's not making it back to the practice squad, in my opinion. So I think he's still in that conversation, just needs a breakout. But I think right now, if I was betting, I'd say Matthew Betts makes it, and Ukwu's right behind him.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's definitely been a heated topic on our show between James Houston, Matthew Betts. I think we're all fans of Isaac Ukwu. There's been no Isaac Ukwu slander on here, but a guy who's also been showing out in preseason. I've been asking a lot of people about him, even outside the show, but Isaiah Williams, I think he's a lock to make this roster, in my opinion. I would be baffled if he did not make the active roster based on, if you look at outside of Khalif Raymond, Jamison Williams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Isaiah Williams, without a doubt, has been the most productive wide receiver so far in the preseason, and he's been making noise in camp. You look at his contract, that's a lot of money for an undrafted free agent. Just what are your takeaways from Isaiah Williams? And if he makes the team, if you think so, what do you think that translates to in the regular season?
All right, so watch this. I had this super deep thought today. I was like, man, this is deep. People are going to write a book about this. I thought if Isaiah Williams was a draft pick, there'd be no doubt he's making the team. And I wrote that down. I was like, put that on the wall somewhere. But no, I seriously though, like
that's a bar.
That's really, hey, that's what I'm talking about. That really though feels like the case. Like if Isaiah Williams was a 7th round pick, I don't think there'd be any conversation of him not making the team, right? Like with Antoine Green being a 7th round pick and being pretty productive, like our 2nd most productive receiver in week 1, you were like, man, Antoine Green's probably making. I felt like that. Antoine Green's probably the next guy up. He's probably wide receiver 5 at this point. Someone's got to take it from him. But because Isaiah Williams is undrafted, it feels like it puts him in a different conversation, but I don't think it should. I think Isaiah Williams, I thought he was a better player than some of the players that got drafted ahead of him. And Isaiah Williams, what he's done so far, like, yeah, he's basically been like Tom Kennedy productive, like from years past, but he also has a lot more upside. I feel like there's a lot more juice there and what he can do. Like, I understand he's not the body type that Peoples-Jones or Fountain is, but that position and that role is still open, and you could still keep Isaiah Williams. Like, it doesn't have to be Isaiah Williams versus Fountain and Peoples-Jones or somebody else. To your point, we have 3 locks, and after that, I don't even know. I think there's a possibility, and I want to hear your thoughts on it if you guys consider this. Do you all consider that there maybe is a possibility Lions come in with 4 receivers after their final cuts? Because I think he is a lock at 4. I'll leave it there.
I don't think there's a way they can do 4 depth-wise, because once there's an injury, I understand you can keep a guy in the practice squad wide receiver-wise, but I'd rather keep a Donovan Peoples-Jones on the roster compared to a James Mitchell, or maybe even – because I would assuming you'd probably be stacking up at tight end. And I think they're going to keep 3 regardless. And I think if you're going to keep 4, James Mitchell is sticking around. And no disrespect to James Mitchell. I have much more faith in Donovan Peoples-Jones, even after a bad offseason, doing his job consistently than James Mitchell. Yeah. That's just where I stand.
I will say, Dion, I think I wouldn't be shocked if they kept 4, but I think they add a 5th. And I think when cuts happen around the league, I think they look around and say, all right, who can we bring in?
Hey, Bobby Trees. Bobby Trees.
Yeah, there are definitely guys around the league in different rooms that are deeper that potentially could get cut that probably are having better camps than a DPJ right now. That's my first thought.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? And then speaking of the wide receiver room, the DPJ stuff. I know early in the offseason, I planted my flag, Dion. I'm not going to lie to you, and I said I think he could be a very solid depth piece, as someone that can kind of fill that 200-300 yards you're looking for. And I guess maybe there is part of it where people get wrapped up in training camp and OTAs and all that stuff to kind of base how seasons are going to go. You just brought up James Houston. Like, he's been a big one for how he's been kind of playing. What do you make of the DPJ stuff? I know people are already talking about he's going to get cut. Where are you at? Because he does fit, like, physically what the Lions do need, but where are you at with it?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I stuck my claim in James Mitchell, but that's not gonna happen. Talk down to Peoples-Jones. No, man, you're 100% right, and I think we're on the exact same page here. He fits perfectly. It's like it makes so much sense that this guy would be wide receiver 5. And to that last question, like, I think absolutely too. Like, there's someone else that's probably gonna come in at some point here, but Donovan Peoples-Jones fits perfectly into that role. It just makes too much sense. But then there's been really no production there at all. And in this last game, and when you watch him, there's certain routes that he just doesn't get open on. And I think that's okay if you felt that he was more dominant in the areas that he was good. Like, if it was like, oh man, but he had 2 or 3 receptions in this game. We understand he's not getting open on the comeback routes and stuff like that, but he's getting open on what he's supposed to. But because there's like no production there, it's so difficult. But I think the thing with that is, when I come back to the receiver room, I go based on kind of like what you did coming into the year, just how I felt about the player, my projection coming in, because I think a lot of it may have to come down to, well, what are they thinking in practice? What are we not seeing that they get to see that they may have to base a decision like that on more so? Because really, I don't think any receiver's been productive. I mean, outside of Isaiah Williams, it's been just here's a reception. It's like, like nobody's consistently productive. Caden Davis was like our most productive other receiver, and feels like he's in a good spot when it comes to practice, but then you get to the preseason and he just doesn't feel like he's even there outside of the big plays. So yeah, absolutely. So for me, if I was betting right now, I think Peoples-Jones makes it as well as wide receiver 5. That's my next up. I'm still betting on the fact that I think that player fits too well, and I think that he has a role in this offense. And he also maybe they're just trying to do things they're just trying to see what fully is there, but like, it's clear, like, there's certain routes you don't run with this guy. There's certain packages you don't put him on the field. But I think that's perfectly fine within this offense. It's just not flashy whatsoever.
Yep.
Love that. Hey, Dion, one more thing I have here is the secondary and going into Saturday. Do you think there's any sort of battle going on still in the secondary with like a Brandon Joseph or anything? Like, I know when we were at camp a couple times, we did see like and I mentioned this to Jeff, I think it was last Wednesday. I think you might have, I can't remember if that was the day we ran into you, but there was a day last week where Brian Branch was out and running with the ones and Jeff and I always say, like, let's not take too much account into it, but Brandon Joseph stepped in for Brian Branch, and if he stayed with the 2s. Like, so do you think there's like still like a little bit of battle going on? Maybe not more so with Brandon Joseph and Iffy, but just kind of in that room as a whole, like them trying to figure out the right rotations and where does Iffy fit and where does Brandon Joseph fit, and like these guys in that rotation.
Yeah, I think safety specifically is super interesting, because I think those 4 feel really safe. Like, if we're just talking about making the 53. But then it's number 5, and it's, do they keep 5? And I personally thought, I could be just delusional, but I thought when Dan Campbell speaks to the media, like, he was speaking to that specifically. I think he brought up like do we keep an extra safety? And I was like, oh, he's talking about keeping a 5th safety. He's probably not. He probably just threw out a random position. But for me, that's Lawrence Strickland right now. I think Lawrence Strickland makes the 53 right now. I think he's like maybe the biggest shock that gets in because of, like you said, like it's really that flexibility. And when you have a guy like Brandon Joseph kicking Branch down, it's like, all right, Branch gives us flexibility. I think Strickland has added that throughout the preseason. And the talk was maybe, well, if he could maybe play some of that nickel role. And I don't think we've seen it at all. So Lawrence Strickland showing us that, I think he'd be valuable on special teams. I think that's the battle right now, because the weird thing is guys like CJ Moore, he was like a staple on this team. It's kind of like, well, he's not making the team. I haven't heard anybody say CJ Moore is making the team. And, guys like Garnes and stuff like that, they probably won't make the team. But it's Lawrence Strickland to me that I think has the biggest shock, because it was so weird to me going through the 53 and seeing like defensive line. And it's like, man, there's probably going to be 0 surprises here. Like, it feels like we know exactly who's here. And it feels like that with most of the defense outside of safety to me. And I think because they could go lighter at cornerback, go a little bit heavier at safety, because they know Branch may have to kick down, especially now without Mosley. And I think that opens the door for a guy like Lawrence Strickland to get into the 53.
Strickland. I love
Yes,
that.
sir.
Wow.
Campbell's been hyping him up in pressers lately. Stick him out there, keeps making plays. He's probably just making plays that don't show up on the stat box, and Dan Campbell loves that type of play. But I got a question for you, Dion. I want to pick your mind here. I'm going to give you 3 players, and I want you to give your answer for who has the most receiving yards out of these 3 players, okay? Started off with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then we'll go to A.J. Brown. And finish it off, we'll go to Vegas and Devontae Adams. Out of those 3 wide receivers in 2024, who do you think has the most receiving yards there?
Oh, he's on the spot.
Bro, that's tough. All right. Well, no, it's actually hold up. First off, we can eliminate Devontae Adams. I don't even know how he first off, I don't think he's going to be a Raider all season. So I don't even. Yep. And then second, I think Brock Bowers is going to eat up a lot of those receptions. That's just a disaster over there. So I'll eliminate them. And then it's A.J. Brown. And my thing with A.J. Brown is I could see Devontae Smith missing time. And I think that Philadelphia offense is going to come back and emerge again this year. I think it's going to happen with Kellen Moore. So I think he's going to put up some big-time numbers. I like that one a lot. It's just difficult because I also, you want to buy into well, Jameson's going to have a bigger year. So he's got to take somebody's receptions, right? Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's tough. I don't want to go with the basic answer here, but I'll go St. Brown. I'll go St. Brown because he got his money. St. Brown to me feels like he's going to give the opposite effect, of the concern of once he gets his money, he's not. I think St. Brown's going to be the opposite. He's now got his money. He's never going to want to come off the field. It's I can do that. Let me be the Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'll throw a fade to me. He'll want to do things like that. And I think the Lions will be okay with we're just not taking him off the field anymore. If receivers question, St. Brown won't come off the field. He'll play everywhere. So I think he'll almost be force-fed to just have a monster season. So I'll go St. Brown.
Okay. Love that, man. I love that stuff. Hey, check out Dion, man. Show him some love at Dose of Dion 2.0. Dion, we appreciate you joining. Even on your cell phone, man. You're continuing to crush. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
Hey, I appreciate it. Real quick though, did anybody else say anything but St. Brown? I gotta know.
No, I actually agree with that take.
I would say St. Brown too.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra and A.J. Brown are always the receivers I fight over. I just think A.J. Brown, has more yards, I think. I could see Amon-Ra having more catches and touchdowns, but I think A.J. Brown gets more yards.
Yeah, we argue about this stuff, Dion, about where they rank. I think me and Booner had St. Brown higher. I think you had AJ higher. So that's kind of
I had AJ Brown higher.
It fits our narrative, fits our narrative.
That works. That works. Hey, look, next time we'll talk James Mitchell after week 3. That's what I look at.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
I'm a whole
best of luck to James Mitchell on cut day.
Hey, absolutely, man. No, I appreciate y'all having me, man. Have a great rest of your show.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, Dion.
Appreciate you, Dion.
Most of Dion, man. Show him some love. He's always continuing to crush. I mean, it fits our narrative. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think he'll have more yards. I guess we'll see. Another one of those takes where we'll just have to, revisit and talk shit. But
who had more yards last year? What did AJ Brown have?
I think he had almost 1,500, didn't he? He had
I don't know how much.
St. Brown. Okay. I'm sure going into last year, everyone would have said AJ Brown as well.
Yeah. Well, last year was to be fair, really bad year for that offense. A really bad year. But
everyone was hyping AJ Brown up when he went for 6 straight games of over 100, and then later in the season, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah, but then Amon-Ra St. Brown did the same thing, but even better later in the season. Amon-Ra just won up to him.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both great wide receivers.
Amon-Ra said, "Hey, hold my beer real quick, brother." It's all right.
Love Amon-Ra.
Yeah, Klotz, we don't like that fair. Yeah, we don't like that fair take. They're both great. AJ's an absolute.
AJ's a
beast.
great receiver. I think when we did our rankings, I think we had like AJ Brown at 6 and Amon-Ra at 5 or something like that.
Yeah,
Like,
that was flip
very
flops.
close.
Yeah, you're picking hairs.
You know what, guys? And I saw ESPN did their little coaching staff ranking today. And, they had the Lions at 2 behind the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm looking at this ranking. And again, I think it was basically head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator. They had them second. I want to make this very clear so people understand what I'm saying here. The Detroit Lions have the best coaching staff in the National Football League. They do. Best, and I'll tell you why. Yeah, I see you laughing, Klotz. I'll tell you right now. Go down, pick a coach. Terrell Williams, we would agree, one of, if not the best defensive line coach. Hank Fraley, one of the best offensive line coaches. Ben Johnson, the best offensive coordinator. You can even go Aaron Glenn. He's not there yet. Okay, he's probably the one where this year has to prove it. Hasn't really earned it yet. But I think as the totality of the coaching staff, I would take the Lions. Now, you look at the Chiefs and you say, well, and I see streams, Andy Reid, absolutely, for going head coach. Yeah, Andy Reid I'm taking. Steve Spagnuolo, absolutely. He's the best DC. But I'm getting the best OC, okay? And I'm getting the best at multiple other positions. I think the Lions, and even Mark Brunell, very good quarterback coach. I think he's very underrated. Doesn't really get talked about a lot. So I think in terms of the depth, like I know people think of head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. If you go top to bottom, I think the Lions have the best coaching staff from top to bottom. Even Calvin Shepard, I see someone just put it in there. Great mention. I think he's an excellent coach. And I think a lot of them being former players helps, obviously, because these guys know the game better than most. But I had to really think about that. But it's true. Like Hank Fraley, Terrell Williams. I know I've been saying Terrell Williams. Like, guys, this coaching staff is stacked, absolutely stacked, and having the best coordinator, offensive coordinator. And if you want to say a top 5 coach, dude, as a group, I think they're the best. And that's where I came to today thinking about it. And I know it sounds wild because you think of the best coaches, but I'm not talking about the best head coaches. I'm talking about the deepest coaching staff Lions have.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I mean, I'm kind of spot on with you. I didn't even think about the kind of angle there that you took when it comes to the whole coaching staff. I'm more so when I looked at this article, I was like, all right, head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator. The one thing that's like extremely glaring when you're looking at coaching staffs around the NFL right now, and I think this is pretty obvious, is there's 2 coaching staffs that stand out. It's 1A, 1B, and then there's a big gap, and then there's the rest of the coaching staffs. Like it is Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, and then Matt Nagy is just automatically in there. And then you have Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson, and Aaron Glenn. And the thing with like the Chiefs one, the one, and this is what got me with a lot of the other teams and coaching staffs. Andy Reid calls the plays. Like, what does Matt Nagy do besides just sit there and like, yeah, he works with Andy
He's basically
Reid.
like a quarterback coach.
He's a quarterback coach.
I mean? Like he's just coaching Mahomes.
Yeah. So like, if you're looking at all 3, if you're looking at head coach, offense coordinator, DC, and you put them next to each other, like, yeah, obviously Andy Reid and Spags will put them up there. But then you look at Dan Campbell, what Dan Campbell's done with the culture and what he's done in the building. And then you look at Ben Johnson. He actually calls the plays, and he's putting this offense together, like working with Dan, yes, but he is single-handedly changing this offense. And you have Aaron Glenn, who now is you're hoping puts out a top 10 defense in the NFL. Like that is just a very, very well-rounded. And then like, if you want to go, like I say, there's a big gap. All right, let's go to a couple other teams real quick. Are you ready? The Los Angeles Rams. All right, you have you have Sean McVay. All right, Sean McVay, awesome. Probably we all agree he was like the second.
I think he's the second
head
best
coach in the NFL. But then you have Mike LaFleur, who's not new OC, but he's new to Los Angeles. He was the OC in New York for 2 years. And how were they? Like they struggled for 2 years with Zach Wilson. And they have Chris Shula, who was a first-time DC. And then you go to the 49ers, where it's Kyle Shanahan. He calls his own plays. So they don't even have an OC. It's just Kyle Shanahan. And then you have Nick Sorensen. He's a first-time DC. So you're looking at their staff, and they're like, all right, their DC is brand new. and he's never been a DC in the NFL before. And then you go to the Ravens, and you're like, all right, John Harbaugh, Todd Monken. Yeah, Todd's been good through his career. But then you go to their DC, Zach Orr. He's a first-time DC. And then you go over the only other one as well is like the Houston Texans with D'Amico Ryans. They have Bobby Slowick. Obviously, I think on here are pretty high on him. And then Matt Burke, who is a first-time DC as well. So, like, if you're really breaking down some of the top teams in the NFL and you're going through full coaching staffs, think about how lucky first of all, how lucky the Detroit Lions and the organization is to keep their coordinators so long, both of them, because you look at the top other teams and they all have new DCs, new OCs, and they're always trying to find new guys. Like you can make an argument here, and Jeff, I'll say it with you here, and I'll be locked in. The Lions do have the best, like top to bottom, the best coaching staff in the NFL. Like, yeah, Andy Reid and Spags, you can do that, but if we're talking about 1, 2, 3, it is Dan, Ben, and AG, and that's a fact. Like, I'm not putting Matt Nagy in that tree anymore.
That's
not doing
insane.
That.
I love the hype that you guys are saying, but Matt. Okay, let's start with this. Andy Reid, second best head coach in NFL history.
Matt Nagy,
Steve Spagnuolo will be in the NFL Hall of Fame for the defensive coordinator that he is. I would say that Steve Spagnuolo at this point is a better defensive coordinator than Ben Johnson is an offensive coordinator. It has to do with time. The fact that you're just writing off Matt Nagy, who took Mitchell Trubisky, Jordan Howard and company into the playoffs and lost off a double doink by Cody Parkey to what was ended up Super Bowl champions. Matt Nagy was absolutely blackmailed out of Chicago. He's not the best head coach in the world. But when you say that Aaron Glenn, who I love, who I support, but who has struggled because of personnel, but who has struggled the whole point up to his career, compared to a guy like Matt Nagy, who's been a legitimate head coach, and if you're just, how can you say that Matt Nagy is not a good offensive coordinator? Look at that offense last year, and the fact that Patrick Mahomes is not able to throw the ball. But look,
he didn't touch the offense. He's a quarterback's coach.
So Matt Nagy just sits there on the sideline.
You don't even. Why
did they fire Eric Bieniemy? Because there was a problem there. Eric Bieniemy was a problem there. You bring in Matt Nagy.
Let me tell you something real quick. Eric Bieniemy didn't get fired. He chose to leave because he wasn't calling plays.
Eric Bieniemy wanted to be a head coach in the NFL because
he left because he wanted to call plays. That's a fact.
He said
he got fired.
He wanted to call plays, but you know when
he left to Washington because he wanted to call plays. Matt Nagy, all right, you can't put Matt Nagy was okay. He was good in his past. He was good in the past. If he wants to actually be a good head coach, go somewhere where you actually have to work. He's not working.
He made a playoff game with Mitchell Trubisky
years ago, and then what? He got fired. Then he got fired.
Left Chicago, was never a starter anywhere in the NFL. Mitchell Trubisky, when he was in the Chicago Bears, looked like a legitimate NFL quarterback. So when you say, what does Matt Nagy do? How many fucking games has Aaron Glenn won as a head coach? The thing is with Eric Bieniemy and Matt Nagy, is part of being a good head coach is knowing your fucking role. When you know your role, there's no distraction there. The last year of Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City was a distraction.
If he was so good, he would have an OC job this year. He would be an OC right now somewhere.
He does. He's the OC of the Kansas City fucking Chiefs.
Yeah, how many plays does he call a year? How many plays does he call a year, bud?
What do you expect? Okay, so any head coach. So
how many plays does he call a year behind Andy Reid?
Kevin O'Connell, when Shane Steichen, when they were in Philly, when they were in LA, they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. Kevin O'Connell was a passing game coordinator. What the hell does he know about anything? He does nothing.
If he's
crazy.
that good, he just won a Super Bowl. He could have easily left if he's as good as you're making him out
because he
to be.
realizes he's a better at being an OC and doesn't want to deal with all that drama.
He realizes he's not as good as people think he is.
Well, if you're Matt Nagy,
Holmes and Andy Reid. Latch on. Hey, latch on, buddy. Come for the ride with the big boys.
If you're Matt Nagy, let me ask you this, Booner. If you were Matt Nagy,
come for the ride to win a Super Bowl with the big boys, Matt.
You took the Chicago Bears as an offensive coach with Mitchell Trubisky, Jordan Howard, and trying to think who their tight end was even at that time. But they had a bunch of nobodies out there. Offensively, their offense scared no one. They didn't even have the best offensive line.
Are you talking about the Bears from 4 years ago again?
Booner, Matt Nagy was the Bears when they were beating the Lions, when Mitchell Trubisky was beating the Lions.
Yeah, the Lions with Matt Patricia. That's awesome.
When Nick Foles and the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl, if Cody Parkey doesn't miss a kick, you don't hear about big dick Nick Foles, none of that. So when you go, you can just not – if you're Matt Nagy, why the hell would you want to be a head coach in the NFL again after you took a team to the next level and you get fired? For who? Matt Eberflus? I don't even remember who the fuck they had in there before then, but Matt Nagy, probably in the past 10 years after Lovie Smith, was by far their best head coach. So just to be like, who is he? Aaron Glenn, automatic.
Very high
I
bar,
love
to,
Aaron
very
Glenn.
very
That's
low
just-
bar, huh?
There's levels to
Very
just,
low
of just being
bar.
like, look over a guy.
Very low bar
hey,
for Matt Nagy.
I'm
I'm with
not
Jeff on
arguing.
this.
If
And
you
if you
wanna-
start to look at, Go ahead,
I
Jeff.
was gonna add. I'm talking about from top to bottom.
Yeah, but that's tough, Jeff, because
I'm
like,
not talking
do you
about
know who
if you want to do big three, head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, you could argue that. I'm arguing every coach.
Jeff,
Me and
but
Booner
do
are
you
about
know
to agree.
you agree? All right, let's do a test right now. I would love for you guys to name me the wide receiver coach
Booner,
for
I said I agree with
the
you. I
the
said me and
Chiefs.
Booner are about to agree. Like none of us,
Because
nobody outside of Detroit knows who the fuck Kelvin Shepard is. No,
I'm just looking
No,
at
no,
1,
I'm
2,
not-
3. I think you can argue 1A, 1B for the Lions, Chiefs, and then there's a massive gap, and then the rest of the coaching staffs in the NFL. Like when you really look at it, like,
But
like
that's
if
the
you want to
worst.
make the argument the Chiefs are better, okay. But like to say Matt Nagy is the
No,
clear reason
no,
that they're
there
better
isn't.
than the Lions is ridiculous.
Oh, no. Yeah, I was saying that you guys are not. I don't even think Jeff did, but Booner, you were like, you want to say Matt Nagy? I don't care. And then you said Aaron
No.
Glenn automatically. I'm like, what?
I think my argument is they have the deepest coaching staff, and I think they have the best, deepest coaching staff. Like to have the best offensive, second, the Eagles have, I think, the best offensive line coach. All right, but second best offensive line coach, and you want to go defensive line coach, Terrell Williams. I think many respect him as one of the best defensive line coaches. That's two coaches, one of the best at their positions. So we got that out the way. That's already impressive. You have the best OC. Okay, Dan, you could say top 5. I'm not arguing he's better than Andy Reid, but I'm talking top to bottom. To me, there's not really an argument. They're better.
All right, Jeff, pick then 1, 2, 3. Who is it?
What do you mean? If we're going, we're going head
OC,
coach,
DC.
offensive and defensive coordinator, it's tough. I mean, I think you'd give those 3 spots to the Chiefs because Andy Reid is Andy freaking Reid and Spags is the best at his position. If it was like 1
That's
and
crazy.
2 in the league, if it was 1 and 2 in the league with Dan and Andy, like pretty objectively, I think you'd have an argument. But it's tough when you have the best coach, you have a top 5 coach, and then I think Ben and Spags cancel each other out because they're the best at their position. And then it's Aaron Glenn and Matt Nagy, which, like, I mean, it's like I get your point though, Boone. Like he ain't calling.
It's
no
either
plays.
one. Like,
He ain't
okay,
calling
yeah, we could
But he's
consider
still- I
what
think
Matt Nagy did
I'm
in the
gonna be honest,
past.
I think Matt Nagy did get blackballed in Chicago. I will say that.
Oh,
I just-
okay,
I-
but again, he's been out with the Chiefs for how long? He could have easily gone out and got a new job, and he could have easily made his way back up. It's just, to me, it's like you're putting a lot of like, all right, like if you guys want to sit here and like Adam being like Matt helps with congratulations, you help with the offense, like. Awesome. You help with it. Aaron Glenn runs his defense, and he needs to go out there and have a top 10 defense, and I believe he will this year. Like you guys say it all the time, and you guys were ones 2 months ago that came at me about talking about Aaron Glenn, about how he's finally getting the pieces to actually do what he needs to do, and that Aaron Glenn is such a good defensive coordinator. He just has never had the opportunity, and he has the opportunity now. So, like, with Matt Nagy, it's like, I get what you guys are saying. He might have got blackballed in Chicago. He might have, but, like, okay, he's not in Chicago anymore. I don't care what he did then. I'm looking at what is he doing now in the NFL. Like, he's not calling the plays. Like, he might be helping Andy Reid, but we know when Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey and Rashee Rice, when they come out and talk about, hey, how was the offense? What are the plays? Like, what are you guys doing? Every single conversation is, man, Andy Reid, like his offensive mind, the plays that he comes up with, the things that he does. I have never heard once in the last 3 seasons since Matt Nagy's been there and won 2 Super Bowls, anyone say, hey, Matt Nagy, man, that guy, dude, he is such a good OC. He is different. Like, he is so – I haven't even heard of him being in another job opportunity over the last 2 seasons. If he's that good and he's been that good, he would have had another job opportunity. It's like Eric Bieniemy. And nothing against Eric Bieniemy, but Eric Bieniemy was there, and then he goes to Washington, the Commanders. Guess where Eric Bieniemy is right now? He's in college. He's coaching college football, which is like, it's not bad, but like he went to go be a head coach, and like he left Andy Reid, and then look what happened. That's it. It's just like maybe you put a little too much into Matt Nagy, or maybe a little too much.
There's no way I can take I'll go with Booner's argument and take Matt Nagy out of it. There's no way you're taking a top 3 head coach of all time, because some people can say Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry. You could put a couple of Bill Parcells.
Yeah,
Andy Reid's a lot, top
gap.
3.
He's closing the gap. Yeah.
One of the GOATs will go down as one of the GOATs. Steve Spagnuolo will retire as the greatest defensive coordinator of all time. Ben Johnson, great OC. Steve Spagnuolo has been doing this for damn near 2 decades now. And that's one of those things where, as coaches, he has not lost touch in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year because of their defense. That outweighs everything, in my opinion. Until you can prove that you're better than those guys, which I don't think anyone in the NFL has, I don't care, especially when you have a former head coach as your OC.
Yeah, and the Spags thing, like I get that. I do. I just think with Ben, the thing that I think makes me make a case for him is even in the short period of time he's been an OC, he's changed like offensive football you have teams mimicking their plays. And he's 30, how old is he? Like 36 years old. I think if you gave Ben 20 years, dude will be a Hall of Fame OC. But he's not. He's going to be a head coach. You know what I mean? He's going to be a head coach.
I'm sticking to my point though. It's that there's 1, 2, and there's no one. And I think that's like the biggest thing
fair.
with this. It's like it's the Chiefs or Lions, and then there's no one after that. Like these guys have the best, and that's probably going to be the Super Bowl matchup. It's the 2 best coaching staffs. And then hey, guess what we can do, fellas? Hey, we'll battle it out, and best team wins, best coaching staff wins. Yeah. And honestly, I know they didn't have Travis Kelce or Chris Jones last year, but hey. Best coach won best coaching staff won last year. Got the best of them.
Yeah, I mean, in the chat.
Matt Nagy really called some great plays versus the Lions last year, didn't he, Klotzy?
Adam brought this point up. Like you're seeing coaches being hired not just under Andy, but you have like Kevin O'Connell who didn't call plays, and you have Mike McDaniels who didn't call plays. But personally, I think those two are better coaches than Matt Nagy, and will be, like, even if Nagy gets another job. So like I get that point though. It doesn't mean a guy who doesn't call plays it can't coach. It's just hard to like evaluate an OC when Andy Reid's like the wizard he is. So I get that. Like especially with Ben, I think you got to give him more credit because dude is like the play caller. Like absolute no questions asked. Dan he'll chime in, throw his little ideas. Hey, that's what I want it to look like. Here's the canvas. So I want you to paint it. Ben will paint it. So we'll see. I still stand on that though. I think the Lions have the deepest coaching staff, and I think that's credit to Dan because they got guys everywhere. But I will agree with you, Klotz. Calvin Shepard probably not known outside of Detroit.
And that's not like I love Calvin Shepard.
Yeah,
but no one's paying attention to linebacker coach.
But they know Hank Fraley. Hank Fraley and I think Terrell Williams. Those two.
Yeah.
I'm just to be honest though, I couldn't name many position coaches around the NFL. So that's
not many. You mentioned Bobby Slowick. That's my guy. But yeah, I can't name a bunch of OCs.
Like Brian Flores, like guys who were head coaches are the ones I could think of.
Absolutely. Guys, I want to ask you.
Those are the best assistants though, huh, Klotzy?
I mean, if you have head coach experience in the NFL, you're gonna make a damn good coordinator.
Yeah,
I'm sure. All the time, 100% hit rate.
Guys, we're gonna start doing this as it gets closer to the season, where we kind of highlight a player and kind of give our expectations for that said player. Today we're gonna do a rookie. Okay, we're gonna go around, kind of give you what's your expectations for this player, and you can go through floor, ceiling. Will he be average? Will he be good? Could he make a Pro Bowl? How could he make an All Pro? We're gonna do different players. So the player I have today is rookie corner Terrion Arnold. Okay, I'm gonna ask you your expectations for Terrion Arnold. And I'll start with my opinion on it. I think Terrion, you can't deny the dude's talented. Absolutely talented. I don't know how the hell the Lions got this man in the 20s. I just don't. But what I will say about expectations for his career, I think he's going to be very good. Multi-time Pro Bowler. He's going to be looked at as a premier corner. But when we dial it back and we look at rookie season, not everyone can be Sauce. That's just the reality. Not everyone's going to come out, especially Sauce and how physically gifted he is. He's tall, he's long, and he just mirrors wide receivers. The dude is absolutely locked down. So, not everyone can just come out and be Sauce. So let's get that very clear. It's hard. Corner, besides quarterback, is the hardest position to play in the NFL. And now you have a rookie who we all have high expectations for. We'll start as at cornerback 2. Like, let's think about this realistically for a second. I think Terrion Arnold will go out his rookie year. He's going to make plays. He's going to make a lot of mistakes. That comes with the territory as a rookie, especially from a guy like Terrion, who was a safety, got moved to corner. Dude has a nose for the football. No denying that. Can force turnovers. And he can move his hips well. Even his 40 speed, like Jahan Dotson had the same 40 time. Not worried too much about that. But I think there's going to be ups and downs, guys. I think for Terrion, I think if you want to say good and there'll be some bad, I think he'll be above average. I'll go with that. Maybe like in between average and above average. I don't think you're going to get this huge season in terms of especially coverage. I think we'll have some interceptions. I think he'll go out and get a couple picks. It'll be really impressive. But there'll be times where you're watching, you're like, man, Terrion got beat there. And that's okay. He's going to be guarding number 2 wide receivers. So to his benefit, he's not going to be guarding number 1s every single week. But I do think there'll be ups and downs. So I expect him to be a playmaker, but I expect him to make mistakes because that's what it's about your rookie year. He's going to make some mistakes, man. I think in year 2, year 3, he'll start to turn into that. Oh, okay. This is why you drafted him to be your number 1 corner. But that's my expectations. I think, good, slightly below at times, but I think he'll be I will go with solid for the most part. If you take a whole season in totality, I think he'll be solid.
Well,
I love that. Yeah, Jeff, I'm pretty lockstep with you. I don't know what Klotz is here, but at least in my mind, this is the thing with Terrion Arnold, and I think it's tough and we've seen it with a lot of different corners. And I think the prime example, not a prime example because it's tough because Jeff Iafrate went number 2 overall, and the expectations, he was a corner 1, and he came in and he was like he had to be the guy. I think with Terrion, and we've mentioned this before, and I bring it up all the time because I think it's true. It's he's able to not have to put all of that weight on his shoulders with Carlton Davis on this roster. The fact that Brad was able to trade for Carlton Davis and then go get Terrion, it takes baggage off of him. A corner, corner is a tough position. We all know how tough it is, especially in the NFL. Even if you were a good corner in college football, it's that transition into the NFL is that much tougher. It's like a linebacker essentially too, to where you just have so many different things in the pace of play and the guys you're going up against, some of the best wide receivers in the world. So I think Terrion Arnold's just going to be good this year. Not average, not Pro Bowl, not all pro, none of that, not bad. I think it's just good. Like Jeff, similar to you, just very solid. And I think there's going to be a lot of different ways with Aaron Glenn, especially because, he was a corner, that you're going to see Terrion Arnold in a lot of different positions to be able to, maybe not all the time, but like in college, I was looking today, he played 250 snaps in the slot. And he played 500 snaps outside. So, if you need him to move around, this is a guy who's going to be able to give you something if a guy goes down or you need anything. And the best thing I like about Terrion Arnold, I went back and looked at some Pro Bowl, some rookie Pro Bowl corners around the NFL over the last few years. There's been 3 of them in last 5 seasons. Devon Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen, and Sauce Gardner. And then you think about that, you're like, all right, could he get into that level? Maybe not instantly. If he has an unbelievable season, a perfect season, yeah, he'll be there. Now that's obvious. But when you start looking at the best in the league, Patrick Surtain, those guys, the one thing that I know Terrion Arnold has that those guys have as well, that he can get to that level, I said it on draft night. It's his cockiness and his confidence. The type of mindset that he has. I think he has all the skill in the world. The dude plays hard. He makes tackles. The next day after the draft, we watched some highlights. This kid tackles so hard. He doesn't miss tackles, and he'll give you everything you have. But at the same time, he's confident, and he step on the field. And even if he's not the best player, he's going to say he's the best player, and he's going to make it known that he knows he's the best player. And I think that's where a lot, as a corner in the NFL, that's what you need to have. And that's what Jeff Iafrate didn't have when he stepped into the NFL. That's what Terrion Arnold has. And that's to me, the little difference of being great and being good and average. Obviously, I think his rookie year, just good. You're going to see ups and downs. But I don't know if he gets that greatness right away, like the Devon Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen and Sauce. But by year 2, he will get there.
I think it's tough. It's a weird conversation to be having because Terrion Arnold, when you draft him, you think he's going to be a cornerback 1. When you look at, we'll start with his ceiling and his floor. I think at his floor, I think if you look at the comparison too, both played at Alabama, as Drake Kirkpatrick for the Cincinnati Bengals, where it's just he never really got a hot start. He had some streaks where he looked kind of solid, but overall in his career, he was pretty much just a jag. So when you look at that, that could be the floor for Terrion. But what I think is more likely, you brought up guys like Tariq Woolen, those type of guys. I think when you look at Terrion Arnold, the fact that he has Carlton Davis across from him, Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch behind him, Kirby Joseph behind him, Terrion Arnold is going to be giving up plays, but the plays that he is giving up, I don't think people are going to see as much because he has playmakers around him. Terrion Arnold, I think, when you look at Denzel Ward, one rookie of the year, he had 3 interceptions. He didn't have any sacks. He was kind of just a guy that went out there and locked guys down. I don't think he's going to be the locking guys down, but he's going to have 3 or 4 interceptions. He's a guy that's definitely going to be with Laiatu Latu and Dallas Turner for Defensive Player of the Year, because even when you compare him to Quinyon Mitchell, I think Terrion as a rookie is in a position to succeed because he has depth in front, behind. The linebacker core is, I think, going to be playing at a very high level. And when you add in the fact that Aaron Glenn, he's a guy that played cornerback in the NFL. He's a guy that now has his hands on a true potential number 1 corner, Booner, because like you just brought up, Terrion in college played about 200 snaps in the slot and about 500 out on the outside. He can travel. If the number 1 wide receiver, say Carlton Davis, goes down, he can travel with him now. He's going to have trouble staying with Justin Jefferson, with sometimes maybe receivers like DJ Moore. But then you look around the like when they play like the Titans, Terrion Arnold, I know it seems like a challenge when you say the name, but like Calvin Ridley at this point compared to Terrion Arnold, I think not maybe every play, but Terrion's going to hold up against teams like that. And I think if he can do that, he's going to find himself with the narrative of the Detroit Lions being the number 1 or 2 seed in the NFL or in the NFC. When you look at where the Detroit Lions defense is going to have a lot of noise because it's going to be improving, and Terrion Arnold is going to have a big narrative around that. So Terrion Arnold, I like him a lot. I think he's a guy that's going to get 3 to 4 interceptions this year and is absolutely, when come the end of the year, will be a Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate. I don't see, when you look at just Nick Saban DBs, when they perform like Terrion did, when you watch him move from safety to corner, I just think there's a lot of fluidness in Terrion Arnold. There's a lot of sound things. Obviously, every NFL corner as a rookie is going to struggle, but with Terrion, the position he's in, I don't think we're going to see that much of it. Early on, maybe, but it gets cleaned up quick.
I just want. So, are you going average, good, Pro Bowl, or All Pro?
I mean, he could be like a Pro Bowl alternate, maybe, but I just think he's going to be very, like, I think if you're a top 3, like, Rookie of the Year candidate, like, I think that's a very good rookie year. So I don't even think good. Like, he could be a Pro Bowl. I'll say Pro Bowl, okay. Because Denzel Ward,
I was gonna say
all those guys, they're all Pro Bowlers. So I think he's in a position to succeed.
Yeah, I you know what, you made great points. I think the biggest X factor to me though would be how well this defensive line plays. Like if they can, and that's why I think Quinyon Mitchell's in a better position in terms of what's in front of him. I know linebackers you brought up, which is a great point, by the way, because their linebacker core is very, very good, tackling everywhere, sideline to sideline. But like if they can get after the quarterback consistently, it's going to make his job a lot easier. The thing with the Terrion, I think he's going to make plays. I know he's going to make plays. We've seen it. Like the guy can take the football away. The thing I think that'll take time will be just, I don't know if Terrion will be like just a pure cover guy right off the rip. Not that you're saying that, but there'll be times during the season where you're like, oh, okay, this is like part of the developing. Like part of his developing is he's got to get through, get used to playing against these guys in the NFL. I mean, even you look at number 2 wide receivers and you look in the NFC, who you're going to be facing. I mean, I know Debo plays mainly in the slot, but you go out to like the Eagles, like you have Devonta Smith, who won a Heisman at Alabama. So like those are the type of guys that he's going to be going up against. So you got to just hope this defensive line will play way better than they did last year and just give these guys a chance, especially him as a rookie. That's Derek Stingley real quick. I love the Derek Stingley. Tyler brought it up. Derek Stingley rookie year to his second year, that jump. That's what I think Terrion does, to where like Derek Stingley second year, you're like, oh yeah, this dude's one of the best corners in the game. Like that's what I think Terrion can do. Year 1.
And I think the thing with like is your rookie year, especially as a corner, it's like he's going to make a ton of big plays. He's going to be really good. I just think like to be a Pro Bowler, to be an All Pro, you just don't, like, those are mistakes that you just don't make anymore. And you're a very reliable guy, to where I think there are going to be times where, all right, you see a play given up. All right, who was it? Oh, that was Terrion. All right, learn from that. You're a rookie. Move on. You know what I mean? Or you have Brian Branch, you have guys behind you that are able to kind of help you out and maybe don't give up a touchdown, but you're going to give up a play to a Jordan Addison or someone like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's going to be slip ups, and with that, it's like, all right, he's going to have a really good year. It's just that Pro Bowl season, I don't think instantly, like the Pro Bowl season to me, it's like, again, like if he's going to be like Sauce Gardner, Tariq Woolen, and Devon Witherspoon, their rookie years, like you have to be.
I don't
there.
think. Well, those guys are all pros. Those guys are like all pros. I don't.
Yeah,
think
but
he gets
those are the only corners in the last 5 years that have been to the Pro Bowl as a rookie. Those 3 guys are the only ones.
I think
not just all pro. Those are
very,
the only Pro Bowlers.
I feel you, but I think all those guys, like, very good point. Like, they're a different talent, but I think Terrion, the situation he's in, I mean, he's a guy that went up against Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. Like, and I think both those guys, maybe Brian Thomas year 2 or 3 is going to be really good in the NFL. Malik Neighbors day 1 is going to be. I think when you look at him against Ladd McConkey, he was very fluid with him. Ladd McConkey, what's he known for? A route runner. I understand there's levels to this, but Terrion Arnold, I just think he can easily with the situation he's in, be a Pro Bowl this year. It wouldn't be like, ooh. Like, if he were to be a Pro Bowl and not an All-Pro, would any of us be surprised? No, absolutely not. So I understand that's how the history of the NFL has went, but history changes. I think Terrion Arnold can definitely be a guy that does it.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm looking because I had to, it makes me think too. You mentioned the NFC and just looking at like Pro Bowlers. I'm just like looking at some of the corners in the conference because it's, you look at some of the top guys like Jair, Darius Slay, like Jalen Johnson. And then there's like some of those like weird, like the guys who could go either way, which is like JC Horn, who I think is very good, but he just hasn't like been, he's been injured. So like there's that, like Marshawn Lattimore, what does he look like? So it just depends. I mean, James Bradbury's fell off a cliff. So like in terms of like corners, we'll see who shows up this year. I mean, if he's very good and you might have a legit shot to be an alternate. I mean, especially like the Eagles, for example, if they play, let's say hypothetically play in the Super Bowl, we don't want to see that, but Slay that spot would be open, So he might sneak his way in. I'd be shocked if the dude's a Pro Bowl alternate his rookie year. That's a hell of.
That'd be massive.
That's good, like very, very good. Like I don't even think was. So let me see. I know it was different, but I'm trying to look at like other corners that were Pro Bowlers the rookie year, like alternates or anything that made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, no, when I looked it up, like 20,
I think if
Terrion was one. He was a Pro Bowl. Sorry.
Again, it was just those 3 guys the last 5 years.
I mean, in the past, like it's absolutely happened before where a rookie gets a corner or a rookie gets a Pro Bowl or not an All-Pro. It's definitely happened before in the NFL. But outside those points, like I just think if Terrion Arnold was drafted 10th overall, 11th overall, like I think there's definitely people that would sway that conversation. Like I think when you look at it, like Marshawn Lattimore won the Rookie of the Year and he's drafted 22nd overall, I believe. He's drafted kind of in the middle of those rounds. I think when you look at it, Terrion could definitely do it. There's no doubt.
Am I going crazy? You guys hear what I'm saying, right?
I understand the last 3 years, but I'm saying you go back. I'll look.
Yeah, I'm just saying the last 5 seasons. There's been 3.
Yeah,
so
but
it's
I mean,
possible. I'm not saying all pro. I'm saying Pro Bowl.
No, I understand, but I guarantee there's been rookie Pro Bowl corners.
Yeah, there has. I'm just looking at the sample size and the guys at the level. Like Terrion has to play to that level.
Okay, so Marshawn Lattimore and Denzel Ward, both Pro Bowlers, but not all pro.
I'm confused on why you keep bringing all pro up. Am I missing something?
Because you're saying like he has to like. There's no. You keep saying like guys like Sauce and those guys like Sauce.
No. I'm just using. I'm just using that as an example of the type of like the players that we've seen that have done.
I think
like those are guys who stand out. Like you're not just seeing like those are guys who like are still to today. You're like, yep, that's it. Like they like Sauce is the best corner in the NFL.
I think if you look at Tariq Woolen, and Jeff knows I'm a big Tariq's
Woolen.
dropped off.
Terrion
Arnold will be better than Tariq Woolen. I do not doubt that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Tariq Woolen struggled last year though for a bit. I think wasn't it Tariq?
He just lost like he went through one of those spells where it's just like especially like the guy like that who's so big, like when you're going up against smaller receivers and you're getting burnt, you're gonna lose your confidence. He just had to get his confidence back, especially when Witherspoon started balling out. Woolen started balling out. So
yeah, I just want to know. I'm not saying all pro. I'm just that like the statistic that I brought and went and got was these are the guys rookies that just got a Pro Bowl. And I'm like those names are pretty big names. That's an elite. Those are elite guys to put your name.
I thought you were saying like these were the guys they got all pro, so you can't be a Pro Bowl or not an all pro if that makes sense.
No, I'm just saying like those are in the last 5 years the only rookie corners to be in the Pro Bowl were those 3 guys.
No, yeah, I think Terrion can definitely do it.
I'm just reading some of these comments. I've even seen some people pretty high on Ennis Rakestraw, which I think Ennis will probably be more ups and downs. Just because I don't know how much he'll see, so he's not going to get a ton of reps. I don't know, but then John says he could start at nickel in like a couple of weeks. He's pretty high on him too, starting.
Yeah,
at nickel,
but Meek though. What are you going to do then with the Meek?
I
It's just
love him. You guys know how I feel about him, Meek. I mean, I think that's his spot. But I think Ennis will be good long term.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I see some people commenting and chiming in here. Tyler says, I think Terrion will need 5 to 6 interceptions and among lead leaders and pass deflections to be in the Pro Bowl combo. Well, or he's just an absolute lockdown. I mean, Sauce had 2 picks, but he had 20 pass deflections. So, you know, he was a Pro Bowler.
And hey, Jeff, you can attest to this. Sauce year 1. What was he? CB2. Terrion, CB2.
Yep. And I didn't even bring up the NFC North either. Because you're gonna like you brought up, you did it, Boone. Jordan Addison. I mean, you got who would be like wide receiver 2 for, I guess, Keenan Allen would be like the other one.
Keenan or Rome.
Rome, yeah.
Yeah, and then you have I guess
from the Packers is whoever's hot that week.
Yeah. So it just those 2 games a year will be tough.
It's tough, but if he holds his own, like especially later in the season, like if he goes up against Jordan Addison, let's say Jaden Reed's starting the ball out, and Terrion holds his own, absolutely Pro Bowler. If he makes a play against DJ Moore.
I hate to, as a rookie corner, like especially on this defense that's trying to take a step, like just putting the expectation of that on him. Like that's where I just like I shine away a little bit from it. It's like next year I think he could be a good corner, but I just think like putting an expectation on a rookie corner instantly. Like there are guys like Sauce. You knew instantly when Sauce came in, there was a reason he went number 2 overall. Is you were like he's going to come in and make an impact instantly. Like that was an expectation. It was the same thing. I saw someone in the chat quit comparing him to Jeff Okudah, but like Jeff Okudah, number 2 overall, you expect him instantly to come in and make an impact. You got Terrion Arnold 24th overall. He fell a little bit, was supposed to be a top 15 pick, but like still like you're putting him in a position to where you're like he's not expected to do. Like you would like it. I just like putting that expectation on him. It's like, all right, like hey, just let him go out there and let the man go out there and hoop. Just go out there and hoop.
But he believes it. Lucas believes
he does. Klotz does, and you know what I said too. And one of the
remember
things
the Laporta talk. Remember the Laporta talk.
One of the
yeah. Sorry, go on, Booner. Sorry,
it's all good.
I mean, even Marshawn Lattimore in 2017, he had 5 picks and 18 pass deflections, and he was defensive rookie of the year and Pro Bowler. So, I mean, Tyler is kind of right. He's got to have a couple picks and like 15 plus pass deflections, which he got a knack for the football.
He's going to force a fumble or two, too. That playing safety converted a corner, you'll see that. He's got that already in him, the knack for the football. All right, Boone. Well, James Houston, we wanted to get to him and talk about him. And by the way, this is brought to you guys by BetUS. But Booner, you mentioned it earlier, talking to Dion, the James Houston stuff. I know you. Hey, by the way, make this very clear, Booner. I'll peek in and listen around the city. Booner brought up James Houston, okay, and being concerned, and maybe someone that you should, keep an eye on. Maybe someone that either gets moved or what's going on with James Houston. Booner was early to the James Houston stuff. And I know, and I'm curious kind of what your approach to it today is, but Boone, what do you got regarding James Houston?
Yes. So obviously like this is James Houston thing's been a story. And not a lot of people talked about it for a while. And there was the concern after that first week of the preseason when you saw James, and I know he was playing the Sam position. I know that. And we've had this argument a little bit on the show. I just think what you saw, you're like, all right, this is a little worrying. He's coming off a broken ankle. The bend, like, is that still there? Like, where's he at with all of this, right? And I think there is a little bit of a concern, a guy that did that 2 years ago. And this is the thing, too. And let me start with this. With the James Houston situation that people, like, that question it a little bit, it's interesting to me because, like, he had an 8-game stretch. And let me just go over this 8-game stretch real quick. And this is from 2022, I believe, to 2023. So he played from week 12 to 18 in 2022, guys, 7 games, 140 total snaps. And that 140 total snaps, he had 8 sacks. Incredible. 5 of those 8 sacks in 2 games. And 3 of those sacks, 3 out of the 8 sacks in just 1 game, I think, versus the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Bills, one of the two. Within that as well, he only had 17 pressures and 140 snaps, which doesn't, you're like, all right, 17 pressures, decent. No, 140 snaps in 7 games. You're a little bit like, all right, that was good. The 8 sacks is what really, really stands out. And then you look at the 2023, where he plays in 3 or 4 games. He played in over 40 snaps, 35 of the snaps were rush plays, 0 sacks, 1 quarterback hit, and 1 quarterback rush. Two total basically quarterback rushes, essentially, in the 3 or 4 game sample size that you saw from James Houston last year. A guy that had 8 sacks the year before. Whether, they moved him to Sam or not, like, all right, he moved him to Sam, guess what? And 80% of his snaps, he was still rushing the quarterback, and he only got 1 quarterback hit and 1 quarterback hurry. That, to me, is a little like, all right, there's something going on here. Do we have the same James Houston? Was that sample stretch of that 8 games? Like, yeah, he had the 8 sacks, but was that sample like, maybe we need to see more because it was only an 8-game sample? And then, like, I looked at a guy as well, and I apologize for being long-winded, boys, but I looked at a guy, Ife Melifonwu. A lot of Detroit Lions fans are very, 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 very high on. Very similar thing with Ife Melifonwu, to where he had an 8-game stretch to end last season where he went out there, and I know he's a safety, 6 sacks. This man in his 8-game stretch almost had as many pressures as James Houston had in his 8-game stretch. 17-11. And just 20 pass rushes instead of 140 that James Houston. And I know it's a safety, and he's probably more open, and he has opportunity, and it's a specific blitz. But my point with that is people like Ife Melifonwu has gotten pushed back into a secondary role here and has not starting anymore, and no one says anything about it. But with James Houston, he's gotten pushed back, and he's about to be off the roster, and everyone's like, oh, why are we talking about James Houston? No. So this is what I'm going to propose to the people. Are you guys ready for this? This is what I'm going to propose to the people. There's 2 things I say on this show. Klotzy, you're going to love this, I think. There's one thing. One, James Houston's on the roster bubble. He might not make the team. A guy like James Houston, who people think has potential, what do you do with him? Or with a guy like him who's going to get picked off from the practice squad? You go find a trade. You do not cut this guy by Tuesday. You go out there and you start making phone calls. Who wants James Houston? Klotzy, who's a wide receiver in this NFL that I say, why don't we go get this guy? This guy will make an impact on our team. Say his name. You're
I'll
muted.
let you. Hey, no, yeah, this man.
Treylon Burks.
No.
Not Treylon Burks. Even better.
Robert Woods, Bobby Trees.
Tyler Lockett, Seattle Seahawks. You make a phone call to the Seattle Seahawks, and you go, you call them. And I already did that. I did the research. I went and looked in Seattle Seahawks beat writers, and I went in there. They have been writing about Tyler Lockett getting traded for months now. He's 31 years old. He has 2 years left of his contract, essentially about $15 million a year, which you don't have to pay anyone. Really, essentially, you have a couple guys, Lee McNeil. There's a couple guys you're gonna have to pay. There's a reason Brad Holmes has capital or cap space right now. It's because he's able to go out there and get guys like a Tyler Lockett. You have an edge room right now with Isaac Ukwu, Matthew Betts, Agude, to where you could say, all right, maybe we have a little bit of depth to where we can go use James Houston. Those guys are not trade options, but maybe James Houston's a trade option. And you could say, hey, maybe let's trade James Houston for depth in our wide receiver room since we're struggling with that. And you go get a guy, and you go get yourself Tyler Lockett, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and you automatically have the best offense in the NFL. And you offer them a 4th-round pick in James Houston to take Tyler Lockett off their hands for the next 2 seasons, a 31-year-old wide receiver. And now you have the best wide receiver core in the entire NFL.
Mic drop. Oh my God. I don't even know what to add. I mean, it's
hard to hate on that. It's really hard. If you're giving up James, I could say, dude, no way Seattle's giving up Tyler Lockett for James Houston. They'll do it for a 4th. I mean, they traded Golden Tate for similar, and Golden Tate was younger at that time and wanted money, yada, 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 whatever. But if that were to happen, I'm all there. It's just my thing is, you trade away James Houston. Injury happens on the defensive line at the edge room. What do you need? Somebody that can get to the quarterback. Booner, and I'm not doing this to be a dick. Can you read off the stats of James Houston when he's playing defensive end for the Detroit Lions like 2 years ago off that spurt?
Yeah, hold on. It's on my phone.
Yeah,
I just did. It's not 17 pressures and 8 sacks and 140 or 130 something edge rushes.
So I would rather have any of that. I'm for Tyler Lockett. Don't get me wrong. But if you're telling me keeping a guy like Matthew Betts versus a guy like James Houston, because you bring up his stats against last year when he went up against Atlanta Falcons, very good offensive line, top 5 offensive line in the league, comes back in the playoff.
That you can't use that as an excuse because this year you have to go up against the Cowboys and you have to go in the playoffs.
What I'm saying is you're switching positions. He's now coming off an injury after that, and he's going up in the NFC Championship game against Trent Williams and San Francisco 49ers. I don't think there was much room for James Houston, A, to find his footing at the Sam position when he's coming off an injury, and 2, to be able to put that much pressure on a quarterback when he's coming off an injury going up against some damn good teams and some damn good offenses. When you look at it, James Houston is the best pure pass rusher on this team outside of Aiden Hutchinson, and I think there is some value to that. I like Isaac Ukwu a lot. You can find a way to keep him and James Houston on this roster. I think that you can find a way, whether it's Ukwu on the practice squad, whatever. But it would pain me to see James Houston, if something were to go down and you have to now go get another edge rusher and you're developing him again, as far as like not a starter, like going to get a depth guy. James Houston, as far as what this team needs, he brings that. So if it's for Lockett,
that's where I disagree. It's like last year. You could say he played this 35 of his 40 snaps last year was coming off the edge when he was even playing. Like this isn't like rocket science when it comes to James Houston right now. He played in multiple games last year. I don't care who it was against. You're a Super Bowl contending team. We are no longer the old Lions to where like, oh, well, that was just a tough matchup. He went up against no. You have to dominate. We are now a roster to where you don't get to make those excuses anymore. It is you're either good or you're not. And if you're not, you're going to get moved on from. I don't care if people have a personal attachment to the kid. Do not care. He had 35 plus rushes last year and had 2 quarterback rushes. And that is it. That is all. That is it. He had 1 quarterback hit and 1 hurry. That is
my
it.
thing though is
that is
if
not
you put
good.
Matthew Betts on there, he's not sniffing them. Matthew Betts isn't sniffing.
He will get more than 2 out of 35.
I think if you were to take James Houston this year or Matthew Betts, you put him in the same position. James Houston, without a doubt, is giving you more production.
Not you, Klotz. I just want to address Streams Only because he's been in here lying this whole time that we've been in this stream. This guy is just Streams Only. Streams Only's lying. That's your new nickname. Listen. He got injured in week 2. Guess what he did? He came back and played in the playoffs. I went and took his games, the 2 weeks that he played and the games that he played in the playoffs. And guess what? I'm not sitting here saying out of games. I'm saying snaps. He took 35. Go look it up on PA. I went and looked it up. He was at the edge position, rushing to the quarterback on a pass play 35 times last year and only got to the quarterback 2 times and did not finish one of them. This isn't a lie. This isn't a liar, boy. This is none of that. These are straight facts. If you don't like facts, I'm sorry, you guys. Some people are too attached to James Houston. You get too attached to certain players, to be honest. This is the situation that we talked about a year ago when the Lions started getting good, saying, hey, guys, we're going to have some real conversations when you become a real Super Bowl contending team. Whether it's players that were good before and they just don't fit on a Super Bowl roster, or 2, you just can't play players and you're going to have to walk away from some guys. So Streams Only, welcome to being on a Super Bowl caliber team. Some guys that you liked and you just might have gotten attached to, sorry, you got to walk away from some of them. I apologize. That's just the way it works.
If you let James Houston walk, and let's say it's not via trade, like let's just say, and I know you're not saying it, a Super Bowl caliber team is going to pick up James Houston.
You let guys walk all the time. It happens.
I understand that, but there's tiers to letting guys walk. Like there's tiers, I think, just taking a flyer on a guy because you don't have it when you've seen some guy. He's very young in his career. If James Houston was like 30, I'd be like, all right, you're probably right. But James Houston, there's still a lot of things that you can unlock with him with a defensive coordinator or defensive line coach like Terrell Williams. You don't think he can lock a couple of things out there? Like, I think if you take those bottom 4 guys that we were talking about with Dion earlier and you put them all on the field at the same time, James Houston, when it comes to getting to the quarterback, especially at defensive end, is going to have more production than all those guys. I could hear you for Ukwu, but again, how are you going to convince me? We haven't seen it. James Houston, I understand it wasn't much. You saw him get to the quarterback.
You saw it 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
You saw him get to the quarterback in the first.
I was 30 pounds heavier 2 years ago.
Obviously, he didn't make the best open field tackles, but at the end of the day, when you're playing defensive end now, you're really not going to be able to do that. You're setting the edge and you're getting to the quarterback. There's obviously times like in screen passes, you're going to be asked to do that. But James Houston, I think, is not going to be even playing the snaps that he was when he was first with the Lions going on that hot streak.
You know what?
Going to be there.
Klotz, you know what? You're right. We want to make sure we don't want to keep building the team. We just want to make sure we pick our roster so other players don't go to other teams.
That's exactly what I said, Boone. Exactly. Word for word what I said, in fact.
No, yeah, Clio Boone. It's just that's not even.
It was a troll. That was a troll.
Yeah, I
Come
know
on,
you're
man.
trolling. Now.
You have to know when I'm trolling and when
Hey,
I'm not. Come
No,
on.
yeah, I'm just not going to lean into it when it's like
Hey,
that.
I think James Houston. I've made this very clear. I get he struggled. And the only thing I don't like, Boone, if I'm being honest, and I get it, and it reminds me. And don't take. I'm not going to say this actually.
Say it.
The
Come
only,
on.
no. The only thing that I don't like is when you say like, because I get it. He hasn't played like that in 2 years. But it reminds me of like J-Mo after the 6-week suspension. And it's like the dude hasn't caught a ball since like he hasn't caught a ball yet. I mean, he was missed all of last year. It's like you get little flashes. Like I try not to look at like because he was injured most of last year. Like you can't really bring up last year at all. Like last year, let's be real. Like it was like a game, right? What was it?
But
2
before
games?
that, he played in week 1 and week 2. Like I had the stats.
I mean,
I went and got. I looked at the
2 weeks,
snaps.
Like he's going up against first week a good offensive line in KC and Patrick Mahomes, and he's a guy he's not an elite pass rusher. So I think when you're asking him to play Sam, he's playing a different position, and you're asking him week 1 to go up against Patrick
That's
Mahomes.
such a weak
That's gonna
excuse
be
to me.
okay.
I just think like you watched week 1 preseason, like when he was what it's like when you're like he's playing Sam. Okay, I get if you're playing Sam and you're dropping back in coverage and he struggles. I get that. But the place to where he's going to the quarterback and he's not getting to the quarterback and he's coming off the edge and in preseason he can't get to the quarterback or get a pressure.
The assignments
Well,
when you're
those
at
are
the
the
line
ones-
of scrimmage, when you're at the line of scrimmage, and I promise I'm not trying to be a dick here, but this is just through playing football, even in college, you hear about this.
Yep.
You're a,
All right.
I won't even say it then.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
say it, please.
I won't even.
Say it. No,
dare
we
try
want to hear
say
it. Want to hear it.
When you go into positional drills, you go into positional groups, obviously, just like in every sport. When you go from defensive end to linebacker, your keys, your assignment, your mental, everything is a completely different process than when it is you're playing defensive end. You could say, oh, I get it. If you're going to say that just doesn't matter, I don't care, then I don't know what to tell you. It's like telling an X wide receiver to go play slot. Like you're
telling me though,
alignment,
him rushing the
everything is completely
so you're telling
different.
me it's completely different. Him rushing, him getting to the quarterback.
Because that's what I'm saying. This is what you're not comprehending. When you're lined up at the line of scrimmage, when you're a defensive end, you don't have to worry about looking at the quarterback's pass drop. You don't have to worry about looking at the guard's reads. You have to worry about.
So yeah, he missed all those tackles because he was all the reads. It's all coming together now.
You're late. What I'm saying
All
is,
coming together.
instead of what James Houston is natural at doing, just playing football and getting the quarterback. James Houston now, instead of just getting the quarterback, so we're about pass, run, got to run fit. Okay, now it's not. Let me get back there because you're in a completely different alignment. The time it takes you to get from the quarterback to the running back is completely different at Sam compared to defensive end. The blockers that you're taking on are completely different. James Houston's not the biggest guy, but when he goes up against big offensive tackles, he has that flexibility and that speed. That's why he can expose that. When you're playing Sam, you're getting a lot of tight ends and running backs, much more athletic guys that are better and parallel to the ground. So James Houston is going to struggle off that. And I'm sorry if you're just going to ignore that. I don't know what to tell you, but it's not everything, but that is a huge
You're
factor.
right. You're right. You're right.
No, not that you're right. I just think James Houston, he's just thinking too much, man. Like, especially the first 2 games. Like, I just don't like the Sam linebacker stuff. The dude's not built for that. I get it. They want him to be versatile, but he's a true edge. That's what he is. He's a pass rusher. He is what he is. And you gotta let that man just get after the passer. And I know the preseason has not looked great, but Dion made a great point when he was on the show. Besides Aiden, like on paper, he's still like one of your better edge rushers in the room. I mean, Davenport, pure edge rushers, I'd probably give it to Houston. I mean, honestly. But regardless, let's get in Mike, because Mike had a great idea. All right, and shout out. Let's get in Mike in here because we got what else? Hey,
I got to listen to the last hour. When I tapped in, the last thing I would have expected to listen to when I came on was Booner and Lukas arguing about Matt Nagy, but here we are. So I mean, it was great. It was great. But chat, great to see you all. I have a giveaway for the chat during mailbag. I'm going to give away 1 T-shirt from our Crunch Time store. You can pick out whatever T-shirt you want and then DM me and I'll send it to you. All you have to do is be the first person to answer this question. The Lions had 2 first-round picks back in 2004. Both of them were on the offensive side of the ball. Who were those 2 players?
The Lions had 2 first-round picks in 2004.
Yes. They were 2 offensive players. You name me those 2 players in the chat. You can pick out a Crunch Time shirt, whatever one you want from the chat.
Hey, whoa.
Oh,
I know. No, none of that. None of that, Patrick. I love. Yeah, look at the Tyler, Eric.
I'm not even lying, Gentry. I don't even think I can answer that one. No shot.
Yeah, I don't know. I said.
Did Adam get it?
We got it. We got some answers.
We got a bunch of answers.
I think I know the first one, Gentry. I think it's Laner X420X.
Laner.
He was the first to answer the question.
Let's go, Laner. Send a DM to the Crunch Time account on Twitter or what X or Instagram, whatever you have. Send us a screenshot of whatever T-shirt you want, and we'll take care of you.
Yep, get a T-shirt. We'll get you hooked up. Shout out to Laner for getting that one right. I didn't know that one, to be honest with you. So,
hey, shout out Laner.
Shout out.
Honestly, I'm gonna do this every Friday. Well, besides Friday tomorrow because I'll be on vacation. But every Friday moving forward, I will do this giveaway exclusively for the chat. So every Friday during mailbag, I'll have one question. First person to answer it, I'll send you a T-shirt.
Hey, you know what? W Mike, just joining, giving a kiss and baby, shaking hands
right there. BMG, smooth criminal.
You know?
Yeah.
Hey, I got to take care of the people. I heard we hit 9K during this show too. So
yep, we're at 9,030. So people showing love, man. Big time.
Shout out.
You know what that means? 10K 24-hour streams coming soon.
Yeah, boys, we got to really think about that. Because it's getting real. You know when you like say something and it gets real, now it's getting real. Probably when we get closer, a couple hundred away, we'll run it. We'll do a 24-hour stream. I don't even know what that's going to entail, but yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. We'll do it. Why not? All right, boys. We'll get the mailbag. We'll save some of the stuff. And by the way, appreciate everyone for joining. Yeah, no, not 20. No, we might lose track of time.
1 hour. That'll feel like 2.
Yeah,
just have to have an extra long Coach Boone stream or something.
Hey, look at that. 25-hour stream. Streams only, still lying. It's crazy. The man can't get anything right.
Got that man just triggered. Now he's going. Oh, I love it.
What happened, Boone?
Yeah.
I'm not a ball over. I didn't play football.
Oh
so.
my!
Oh, don't do that, Boone. I didn't play football either.
Hey, we can't talk ball at a high level.
Oh,
the rules, brother.
No, it's not that. It isn't. All right, let's get the mailbag. Fire off the questions. Whatever they entail. Yeah, Booner just. I see. Hey,
tell it how it is. Tell the facts.
Booner getting petty with it. You getting petty?
Hey,
getting a little petty, Booner.
I just tell how I see it.
Oh man, dude.
I did play in high school, but I don't know if it's high enough to talk ball.
Oh my gosh, Boone. It's not that deep.
Get Booner Snickers. Though.
It's not that deep. Yeah, get Booner Snickers.
Needs it.
Oh gosh.
Not you when you're hungry, Boone.
It's fair. It's true.
Hey, you're firing up Coach Boone tomorrow.
I don't know if Coach Boone will be tomorrow. I haven't decided yet.
Wow, what's going on with Coach Boone?
Wow.
He's got the flu. He got COVID or something. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, he ain't got no flu game in him. No flu game.
No, that's why I said he'll know tomorrow.
Oh, all right. We'll see tomorrow. Purple Prince says, mailbag, should I start JMO or Pickens for fantasy week 1? I don't know who the Steelers play, so I can't even. I don't know off the top of my head. Let me see.
I personally,
what do you guys think?
I probably would start JMO, to be honest.
They play the Falcons.
You don't know who the Steelers QB1 is at that point too, though.
I think it's going to be Fields, bro. Like the way that it's sounding right
I
now.
would trust J. I would put J-Mo week 1.
Yeah,
That's
I think I would let the whole Pickens situation and their quarterback situation marinate for a few weeks and then maybe make the switch. But week 1, I think you kind of know what you're going to get out of J-Mo, as crazy as it sounds. So,
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you guys. If you guys have the first overall pick in fantasy, who are you taking this year?
Dude, speaking of that, we have our fantasy draft. Shout out Easy, Spencer, all those guys. We got like our big fantasy. And I saw that Sam Flannel had the number 1 pick.
He's Patrick Mahomes, number 1.
I don't want the number 1 pick, man. I think I have 7. Love it.
I have
Perfect
4,
pick.
I think.
I got 2.
Chad, who are you taking?
I get to pick up after. I can tell you, it's sitting at 2. If Flannel didn't take him, it could be a hot take, especially because he's in a contract situation. But I'm taking Jamar Chase or Tyreek Hill, one of those two. I think Jamar is going to have a fucking year.
I think that's a great take. I'm trying to think like who would be. I don't know if I don't know if I trust McCaffrey this year. I don't know if that sounds kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Especially already a little banged up in training camp. That's just it's tough.
Maybe CeeDee Lamb. People mentioning like he's going to get a ton of targets too.
Yeah, I don't mind the CeeDee Lamb one.
Man, I don't know.
I don't know about CeeDee Lamb. I have the pick. I pick number 2, and I'm assuming Tyreek's going to go number 1.
Who are you taking to, Jamar or CD?
I don't know, man. It's tough. That's like kind of the two circling between.
You take that boy Jamar.
Yeah, I'd go Jamar over CD. I don't know what CD's going to happen with CD.
I just think the Cowboys offense is literally going to have nothing outside of CD, and Dak's just going to force feed him the ball, and he's going to get, he's going to get his no matter what. But I do like the upside. I think the Bengals are going to have a good year. Obviously, Joe Burrow bouncing back, so you could make the case for either of them.
Either one's going the pick after a couple picks after.
In the last 5 years, Jench, never back-to-back wide receiver ones in fantasy. Tyreek got it last year. It was supposed to be Justin Jefferson going back-to-back. I think it's this year Jamar Chase.
I don't hate it.
Klotz,
on the way to Nashville, you had a pretty solid draft.
Yeah, hey, and it looks like Ayuk's staying home too. And Boone, I know you guys talked about the Jahan Dotson thing. Do you think I don't know if you guys brought it up, do you think Jahan Dotson leaving? Ayuk's now there?
Ayuk's going to Washington.
Either way,
that's what I said at least. But even if he's in Washington with Jaden Daniels, that's great. He's going to have a big year.
Honolulu BS says, "Who are your top 5 fantasy quarterbacks?" No order though. I probably won't. I don't know about giving.
Josh Allen 1, Patrick Mahomes 2. By the way, too, I saw a stat today that even though Mahomes the last 3 or 4 years has been elite and the best quarterback in the game, Josh Allen's been QB1 in fantasy football 3 of the last 4 years.
Yeah, he's a fantasy
15 plus rushing touch. Yeah, I was just wanted to say on the show the other day, I said Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes in fantasy, and you guys all looked at me crooked like I was crazy. You're all, of course.
No, I told Spencer Josh Allen. I literally that was my take.
We were on the show.
It was me. It was I said I was taking Mahomes no matter what over Allen this year. And
I got a crooked look.
I don't expect the Bills to be that great this year, even though Josh Allen's going to have a huge part in their offense. I'm still taking Mahomes with a fully loaded offense and an MVP caliber season loaded.
I would say Mahomes. Allen? Who you guys think? Stroud would probably be in that.
Stroud for sure. Lamar.
I think Hurts, Lamar. And I think there's a real for fantasy wise, Aaron Rodgers could have a huge fantasy year this year with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, Mike Williams. If he stays healthy, I think Aaron Rodgers was a guy when healthy was a top 3 fantasy quarterback. That offensive line got a lot better.
Klotz,
you could still probably put Jalen Hurts up there too. He's still going to get in the end zone a lot running the ball. And if he kind of works out the kinks that they had last year in the past game, obviously they have loaded wide receivers and they got another one today. So I could definitely see Hurts.
Since we're talking fantasy, because this is this is strictly fantasy. Where do you think Kyler Murray falls this year? With Marv there now, they got a little bit more
solid. Like you'd be like a solid.
Top 10, probably.
Yeah, like I would if I ended up with him, but I have a damn good team, I'd be comfortable with Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Oh, right, Klotz. Real quick, Klotzy. Your guy Anthony Richardson?
He could be.
No, I'm not saying top 10. This is a breaking news that I've been reading today. Struggling a bit.
There's still time, Boone.
They did joint practices, and the Bengals secondary. The reports were the Bengals secondary was mocking Anthony Richardson, yelling at him as all you can do is run. You can't even throw. You can't do anything else. You don't know it. Like they were going at him.
They were cooking him.
I love
Cincinnati was laughing at him. Like
This is the same Mike Hilton who talks shit to Patrick Mahomes. Look, I'm not saying that Anthony Richardson's going to be a top 5 quarterback. My
threw a
thing
pick
is
6 tonight.
Andy
he
fumbled.
did. CJ Stroud.
And he fumbled.
This
guy sucks. I'm just kidding.
Remember this.
No, Boone, you still have him second in the division. Sorry, Luke's going.
I might after the preseason. I might change my
I think if you look at Anthony Richardson and you look at the fact that last year he made a comeback win against the Los Angeles Rams, which people just always are like, oh. He doesn't have the best completion percentage. They're not going to be asking him to throw the ball 30 times a game. He's probably going to be throwing the ball 20 times a game, and it's probably going to be for an average of like 10 yards per pass. When you look at him, the only deep that they have there is Michael Pittman. They're going to be running the fuck out of the rock with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor because Shane Steichen, calling me crazy, he's going to be a top probably 6-7 NFL head coach one day. If he's not already, just depends on who he has. That guy is elite. That defense is going to be very good, and I think they have everything that you need in order. They have a good GM, good head coach, and I think Anthony Richardson is going to be a good quarterback. Not elite, but a good quarterback.
You're breaking down the Colts like we're talking. You didn't give us anything on the air. I'm talking Anthony Richardson here, not the Colts.
That's what like you're acting.
That was
like
awesome breaking down the Colts. We've heard that. I want to know
when have I ever put Anthony Richardson in my top 10 quarterbacks list?
Hey, that he's supposed to be. He's the savior of the Colts.
What have I said? I said Anthony Richardson just needs to play point guard. That's all he needs to do. They're going to be using the
RPO like bread and butter. He had a pick 6 today, which is like giving up a turnover for a 3.
Literally, CJ Stroud in his first preseason game threw a pick 6. We're talking about preseason. If you're going to be acting like this now, it's not. I don't want to hear about it when he's running for 30-yard touchdowns. The Colts win a football game.
I'm reporting you.
This is me reporting back to you. Remember, I'm with you with the Colts. I had the Colts number 2. I'm just saying, hey, as a supporter of the Indianapolis Colts with you, I'm a little worried. I'm a bit worried. You know what, Jeff? I'm going to make the announcement. I am officially considering going back to the Jags.
You're off. You're gone.
Yeah,
I could be on. I can go wherever I want.
Like a fish.
You're not welcome.
Wherever I want.
You're not welcome on my Colts.
I'm not welcome, but guess what? I'll hop on the boat with you guys, and I'll get in the bottom of the boat. You'll never know.
It's bandwagon behavior. You see one narrative, and you're switching sides already.
As of right now, I'm with the Colts, but I'm sitting there. I'm getting ready. I'm on the diving board.
Be a man. Be a man with this take. Be a man.
Stand on business, Boone. You think the Colts? Yeah, you like them. You stay
Jeff, when are you going to take Caleb Williams in your draft?
Woke take out of you, Booner.
When do you plan on taking him? Because we know it's going to happen. It's not an if, it's just when. When is it going to happen?
I'm going to sneak him in late. I'm going to sneak him in late. Hey, I'm going to sneak him in late. If it's a keeper league, I'm going to sneak him in. I'm going to get him. But I'm going to get him. You know, but if it's like a 1-year thing, maybe you get him as like a solid backup or whatever. But I don't know if I would take him this year. Like he can, you saw him in the preseason. He's rushing a little bit. He's showing off those legs. But I don't know about like this year, him arriving as like a, throwing 300 yards and being an incredible fantasy quarterback. Streams only says pause. What'd I say? Hold on. Oh, I said, what did I say? What did I say?
I don't know.
I think you're good.
Okay. See, I go to you guys. All right. Hey, I go to you.
Boone, don't let somebody else telling a lie again, Boone.
Streams only. Guy lives off lies.
Oh no.
Every single chat he has, he puts in there. Just think the opposite of what he says.
Honolulu Blue BS says Harbaugh getting Herbert to the Pro Bowl. I think Herbert's getting Herbert to the Pro Bowl. I think the dude's just a Pro Bowler either way. I mean, he's.
Think Herb's a Pro Bowler this year?
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, he's shown he doesn't need like a lot of talent to.
Lamar, CJ Stroud, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers. Justin Herbert's a Pro Bowl level quarterback, all pro level quarterback, but he ain't getting there. Not this year. I'd be surprised. Unless maybe an alternate.
Yeah, I guess that was more of my thinking. Maybe alternate. Like I could see him getting in there. Like maybe Mahomes plays in the Super Bowl. Who you putting in? Maybe Herbert.
Tua sneaks in there again. Be fucking gross. Tua's always that guy that's like, oh, we need to fill Tua. He's here. He's always got a smile on his face, does his job.
Do you
Who was
see
the backup for the Ravens they had in there that one time?
Tyler Huntley.
Tyler Huntley, yeah.
That's Snoop. That's Snoop.
Yeah.
Oh, like he Streams Only says I was talking about you saying I'm gonna sneak him in late.
There he goes lying again.
Oh, good catch.
Yeah, that's a
Clip
watching
it.
a
And
rivalry
it's-
be born in front of our eyes right now between Booner and Streams Only.
Streams Only just doesn't like facts. So that's all right.
it's jeez. All right, let's get out of here. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to Dion for joining the program as always. Tomorrow we'll be back. Friday show. Excuse me. Previewing the preseason game for the Lions. We'll also have a watch party, so come join us. I'll be me and Boone will be chilling. I know Mike's up north. Lucas, are you busy this weekend? All right. So hey, come hang out with the boys. Come chill out. We'll be out live Saturday. What you think, Boone? We'll do the pregame.
12 o'clock.
12.
All right. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Until then, take care, everybody. Have a great
you guys.
Thursday. We'll
Hey,
catch you.
Laner, DM us.
Yeah, Laner, DM at
Well-
CT Sports or at CT Pod on Twitter. Reach out to us, man. We'll get you that t-shirt. Shout out Mike, by the way. It's big time. All right. See ya.
Hey, shout out to
Shout
Chad.
out